Chapter 607. In such a crisis, Hong Wan's soul was scared out of her wits. Gritting her teeth, a layer of blue crystals appeared on the surface of her body. Her soul had crystallized in an instant. Bang! With a soft sound, her crystallized soul body exploded on the spot, turning into countless fragments that shot in all directions. Good, good. You're the first to force my soul to self-destruct. Hong Wan's soul's roar could be heard from the countless fragments at the same time. There was fear, unwillingness, and resentment in her voice. I will send a message back to my main body now, so that I can come here. I want to see if you can overturn the heavens in front of me. It was just Hong Wan's soul. Because of the fairy artifact in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, Hong Wan's main body, which was in the outside world, did not know what was happening here. However, if even a wisp of Hong Wan's soul managed to escape and return to her main body, then everything that had happened here would be known to her. The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion might be able to stop divine masters from entering, but might not be able to stop all creations. At that time, even if all creations' old monsters came personally, Dark Suyu would still be destroyed. Thousands of fragments flew in all directions, and it would be impossible to catch them all. However, Dark Suyu could only laugh coldly. Do you think you can escape? Soul space. Dark Suyu's dark red eyes suddenly turned snow white, and a white dragon flickered within them before disappearing. In an instant, the surrounding scenery changed. Dark Suyu's body was in the snow white space, and the countless escaping fragments were all in the snow white space. Not a single one of them was spared. The white space was sealed, and the fragments were all sealed within it. A space created by a soul? How did you do it? This is the ancient spiritual body, the unique technique of the Soul Clan. Hong Wan was extremely shocked. Countless voices echoed in the snow-white space. Dark Suyu waved his sleeves, and suddenly, the soul, which had been scattered into countless fragments, was forcefully gathered together. In the end, it formed a crystallized soul that was full of cracks, and not a single soul fragment was missing. All of the soul fragments had been captured. In the soul space, Suyu is a god. With just a thought, he could control everything. At that moment, Hong Wan's face no longer had any resentment, but only despair and fear. Even so, she still could not escape. Dark Suyu could only laugh evilly as he bit down. Ah, creak! A shrill scream came to an abrupt end. The split soul of an all-creation old monster had been eaten alive just like that. After swallowing Hong Wan's soul, Dark Suyu revealed an evil smile that was filled with enjoyment. His laughter reached beyond the clouds and reverberated throughout the Jojo mysterious heavenly stage. However, at this moment, a destructive tribulation lightning descended from the sky. Rumble! With a loud bang, his soul space suffered a fierce attack and instantly shattered. The surrounding space returned to its original state. The only difference was that right in front of him, there was a small beast with lightning all over its body, baring its teeth. It was staring at Suyu with fear. It was a thunder spirit, and it was the embodiment of the firmest and most yang of heaven and earth. Dark Suyu was extremely evil. The thunder spirit instinctively rejected him, so how could it not make a move? Disastrous thunder spirit. Hee. Suyu laughed evilly, his 5 fingers grabbing toward the ground. Swish, swish. A piece of flesh flew out from the ground. It was Sheng Xuelian's broken body. A black jade pendant flew out of his body and into the Dark Suyu's palm. As he rubbed his 2 fingers together, the jade pendant exploded, revealing a few balls of light. The real spirit dragon veins, the great sun punishment fairy picture, the heavenly orchid silver bamboo seedling, and the prototype fairy artifact, the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. With a clench of his fist, the 5 elemental strong thunder seal appeared in Suyu's palm. Although it is a prototype fairy artifact, it lacks disastrous thunder. You were just right for it. The power of the 5 elemental strong thunder seal depended on the disastrous thunder that was sealed within it. Previously, it had never been able to display its ideal power because it did not have disastrous thunder. The disastrous thunder spirit before him was the most suitable. As if it understood Su Yu's words, the thunder spirit rolled its eyes. Sensing that something was amiss, it immediately ran away. With its thunder body, it could travel more than 100,000 miles in an instant. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. However, Su Yu laughed evilly. His whole body flashed with a dark red light, and he even teleported 100 feet around him. In an instant, he caught up with the thunder spirit. As he laughed evilly, he pressed his palm toward the thunder spirit. Sensing the danger, the thunder spirit screeched and spat out a red ball of thunder from its mouth. The destructive power contained within the ball of thunder caused even the divine masters to tremble. However, as Dark Su Yu pressed his palm against it, the red ball of thunder was destroyed on the spot. The thunder spirit let out a pathetic groan as it was struck by Dark Su Yu. The thunder spirit, whose demonic power was unparalleled, was severely injured by a few disastrous thunders from the thunder spirit. However, it could not even withstand a single blow from Dark Su Yu. Collect! Dark Su Yu waved his hand, and the 5 elemental strong thunder seal emitted a colorful light that enveloped the thunder spirit. The thunder spirit screeched fiercely, and the disastrous thunder around it rumbled. At the same time, 9 terrifying disastrous thunders descended. Every single one of them, even if it was just a tiny bit, could turn a half-fairy into ashes. However, the 5 elemental strong thunder seal, which was activated by Dark Su Yu, did not budge at all. It allowed the disastrous thunder to attack it and absorb it all. As for the thunder spirit, although it struggled with all its might, it was still suppressed by the colorful light. With a spin, the thunder spirit was forcefully absorbed into the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. Suddenly, Dark Su Yu furrowed his brows. Not dead yet. Just as he was subduing the thunder spirit, a soul fragment suddenly flew out from Su Yu's body. It was the fragment of Hong Wan's soul fragment. The rest of the fragments had all been refined, and only this one had been preserved by some unknown method. Moreover, it had escaped while Su Yu was suppressing the thunder spirit. Dark Su Yu was activating the prototype fairy artifact with all his might, so he did not have the time to chase after the fragment. As a blue light flickered, the soul fragment successfully escaped from the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. An engraved, venomous voice reverberated throughout the entire space. I want you to die without a place to be buried. Swoosh! The soul fragment passed through the void and quickly returned to its original body. Hong Wan's original body would eventually find out about what had happened here. What awaited Su Yu was the arrival of an all-creation old monster. Dark Su Yu's entire body was filled with evil energy, and he laughed coldly. Do you think I will obediently wait for you to come? Collect! Dark Su Yu shouted in a low voice, and a boundless energy was imbued into the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. The thunder spirit roared angrily as it was forcefully absorbed into the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. Suddenly, a beast's head symbol appeared at the bottom of the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. It was slightly protruding, and it looked like the thunder spirit. However, the beast's head symbol was constantly shaking, and it was unstable. This was a sign that the thunder spirit was struggling within the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. You still want to escape? Just obediently refine it for me. Dark Su Yu slapped the 5 elemental strong thunder seal with his palm. At that moment, a ring filled with evil energy enveloped the 5 elemental strong thunder seal. The thunder spirit's struggle immediately weakened. The 5 elemental strong thunder seal was a magical treasure that could counter evil Een energy. However, it was unexpectedly sealed by an evil Een energy. The day that the evil energy cannot be suppressed will be the day that the thunder spirit is refined. At that time, the 5 elemental strong thunder seal will truly be a prototype fairy artifact. Such a prototype fairy artifact is really a waste in the hands of this body. The tone of the voice was not Su Yu's. Chapter 608. Dark Su Yu waved his sleeves, and took away all the items left behind by Hong Wuan's soul. He then landed on the ground and sat down cross-legged on a giant rock. He then started to take inventory of the items he had obtained. Oh, interesting. A desolate sea-lost pearl? Dark Suyu unexpectedly found a pearl that was flickering with lightning. It was about the size of an eyeball. When Hong Wuan's soul had left, the desolate sea-lost pearl had naturally fallen into his hands. Hee, I have prepared sufficient materials, but this body is too useless. Even if I have the materials, I can't refine it, Hong Wuan's soul said. The 5-elemental strong thunder seal is refining the thunder spirit, so it won't be easy to refine it. Let's talk about it later. After saying this, she casually tossed the desolate sea-lost pearl into her ring. Oh, an illusory spell? He also found a simple spell formation among the items. It was the Ice Soul Divine Dream spell. Suyu's spell formation had been taken away by her as well. Although the effect is poor, it's not bad for me to use it temporarily. It's just that its power is too weak. Dark Suyu blew out a mouthful of evil energy. The evil energy turned into flames and started to refine the spell formation flag. After a while, Dark Suyu retracted his evil energy. The black spell formation flag now had a hint of purple in it. This is barely passable. Dark Suyu nodded in satisfaction. The remaining items were the real spirit dragon veins and the Great Sun Punishment Fairy picture. The real spirit dragon veins? How could there be such a thing? The real spirit dragon veins is a sacred item for cultivating the evil dragon divine body. Dark Suyu was shocked. He was more shocked by the real spirit dragon veins than he was by the 5-elemental strong thunder seal. Such a sacred item is only used as a weapon. This body is simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. Dark Suyu opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of evil energy. A golden beast bone was floating in the evil energy. On the beast bone, there were ancient words that could not be recognized. Back then, in order to obtain this evil dragon divine body, my body and soul were destroyed. I had to escape to the desolate domain. Now, I only have a drop of my blood left. Dark Suyu spoke in a hoarse voice as he held the beast bone. Someone as powerful as he was only a drop of blood. Now, I can only borrow this body and start cultivating again. The evil dragon divine body is the first divine body in history, and its cultivation method is unimaginable. In its early stages, it requires both spiritual energy and vital energy to cultivate at the same time. Although I obtained it in the past, my cultivation level was too high, so I could only look at it and lament my inadequacy. Now that I have occupied this half-fairy body, could it be that the heavens have decreed that I can cultivate the evil dragon divine body? After he spoke, Dark Suyu grabbed the real spirit dragon veins. He had obtained the evil dragon divine body many years ago, so he was already very familiar with it. As Dark Suyu weaved signs with his hands, he placed the real spirit dragon vein on his chest. Then he activated his vital energy and spiritual energy at the same time. The two different types of energy coexisted in an extremely precise and subtle manner as they enveloped the real spirit dragon vein. At the same time, Dark Suyu activated the evil dragon divine body. Although the real spirit dragon veins rejected him slightly, they still gradually fused with his body. Bang bang. The internal blood energy channels in Suyu's body emitted a popping sound. The internal blood energy channels in Suyu's body turned from green to gold. After a long while, Dark Suyu slowly opened his eyes, which were filled with excitement. Ha ha! The first stage of the evil dragon divine body, the first dragon's body, has been successfully cultivated. Huh! Dark Suyu punched the air. His arm suddenly shone with a golden light, and the golden internal blood energy channels emitted a dazzling golden light. The punch, which clearly did not contain any spiritual energy or vital energy, was able to cause the space to collapse. With the first dragon's body, I can rely on my physical body to tear the space apart with a single hand. The evil dragon divine body is indeed extraordinary. Dark Suyu laughed crazily. He was extremely excited. I will soon be able to cultivate the evil dragon divine body back to my original state. Dark Suyu stood up and looked at the mountains and rivers in the distance. He laughed evilly. Ha ha ha! I have returned to the human world. I have to thank that gourd of flesh and blood. If not for that enormous amount of energy, I would not have been able to wake up from my slumber. Dark Suyu laughed. As a token of my gratitude, I will reluctantly replace this lad and become Suyu. I will take everything that he has, including that woman from the Divine Lady clan. That's a top-quality woman. Not only is her bloodline special, but I can use her after I devour her. Her Jin Yuan is also abnormally strong. If I can have sex with her, maybe my evil dragon divine body will reach another level. He actually wanted to disguise himself as Su Yu and possess Xia Jingyu. With Xia Jingyu's trust in Su Yu and her friendship with him, if this evil being could disguise himself well, Xia Jingyu would definitely not resist. Is that so? At that moment, an indifferent voice could be heard from Dark Su Yu's soul. How is this possible? Your consciousness still exists? Didn't I already erase you? Dark Su Yu was shocked. The moment he had awakened, he had mercilessly erased the soul of the original owner of this body and completely occupied it. Now, it had appeared out of nowhere. In his mind, within the divine nine-dragon cauldron, Su Yu was floating in the red liquid, his expression calm. This was Su Yu's consciousness, Su Yu's soul. Have you finally discovered my existence? At the last moment, in order to save Xia Jingyu, he had disregarded the Ghost King's warning and used the bloodline of the evil ghost. He had also absorbed all the energy from the flesh and blood of the Bai clan. In the end, he had obtained an unusually strong energy, but it had also awakened a mysterious consciousness that had forcefully occupied his body and erased his soul. Su Yu had always been a cautious person. Even if he had to take a risk, he would not be unprepared. In order to prevent his soul from being corroded by the evil energy, Su Yu's soul had entered the divine nine-dragon cauldron, leaving only a shred of consciousness outside to control his body. Surprisingly, it had awakened a mysterious and powerful consciousness that had never appeared before. It had erased the consciousness that Su Yu had left outside in an instant. If Su Yu had not held back, he would have been killed. Humph! It's fine that your consciousness still exists, but you still dared to show yourself. Dark Su Yu laughed coldly. Die! Buzz! A powerful soul attack engulfed Su Yu's head, destroying everything on the spiritual level. Clang! However, with a dull sound, the powerful soul attack seemed to have struck something powerful and was reflected back. What do you have in your soul? Dark Su Yu was shocked. Su Yu slowly stood up and stood in the divine nine-dragon cauldron. He said calmly, "Is that all? If that is the case, thank you for your hard work. I will take everything that you have for me." Dark Su Yu coldly snorted. "Even if I can't do anything to you for now, what can you do to me? In terms of soul strength, you are not even 1/100th of mine. Is that so?" Su Yu's soul was surrounded by a long white dragon. He softly said, "The 18th level of hell. Soul." All of a sudden, the scenery around Dark Su Yu changed. The beautiful scenery had turned into a boundless sea of blood. It was filled with ghostly energy. It was bloody, gloomy, and filled with resentment. It was like the Avicii hell. "Is this your real body?" A drop of blood essence. Suddenly, a silver-haired figure floated in the air, looking down from above. "Is this your secret soul technique, the soul space?" "Impossible. I have used it before. How could it be so powerful?" A drop of blood essence floated in the air. It was the mysterious object hidden in Su Yu's body. Su Yu calmly said, "Do you think that without my permission, you can use my treasure to use the soul space?" The soul space relied on the divine nine-dragon cauldron. The divine nine-dragon cauldron was Su Yu's treasure. Without his permission, how could an outsider use the divine nine-dragon cauldron? Just now, he had only released some of his power when he saw Hong Wan's soul escaping. The true power of the soul space was not limited to this. Even the soul of the powerful Dark Su Yu had been sealed away. "Impossible. I can't be trapped." Dark Su Yu roared as he attacked the space. All of a sudden, the whole space shook slightly, as if it was on the verge of collapse. Suyu calmly said, "Don't waste your energy. The 18th level of hell, descend." Boom! Another 17 spaces descended and fused into one. No matter how dark Suyu attacked, the space remained motionless. "Suppress!" Suyu shouted once again. The overlapping spaces shrank rapidly until they were the size of a cage, firmly sealing dark Suyu. "Rest in peace. I will take everything you have for you," Suyu said calmly. As dark Suyu roared crazily, he floated away. When his soul returned to his body, an incomparably powerful feeling welled up in his heart. The power that Suyu felt came from his body. The power of the first dragon's body was still fresh in Suyu's mind. He could tear the space apart with one hand. It was terrifyingly powerful. Moreover, this was only the first stage of the evil dragon divine body. Suyu made a grabbing motion with one hand, and the golden beast bone flew back into his palm. Suyu revealed a gratified smile. Hee, that drop of blood essence really left behind an incredible treasure. The only unfortunate thing was that Suyu did not recognize any of the words on it. He would only be able to recognize them if he checked some ancient books. Putting it away, Suyu examined it again. The 5-elemental strong thunder seal had suppressed the thunder spirit. This was an unexpected surprise. Once he successfully refined it, it was hard to imagine what the true power of the prototype fairy artifact would be like. Next was the Ice Soul Divine Dream spell. After it had been refined, Suyu felt a sense of dread. This spell had already surpassed the boundaries of an illusory spell. It had become a combination of an illusory spell and a killing spell. For a killing formation to be able to satisfy Dark Suyu, one did not even need to think to know how powerful it was. Suyu was very satisfied with his gains, especially the evil dragon divine body. The cultivation technique that he had sacrificed his life for had helped Suyu in the end. However, Suyu could not be happy because he still had an even more important problem that he had not solved: the enormous amount of energy stored in his body. The cultivation and energy of the Bai clan's flesh and blood were enormous. Suyu's body could not withstand it. It was only because of Dark Suyu's evil energy that he was able to suppress it. Now that Dark Suyu was being suppressed, the enormous amount of energy was gradually weakening. Once it exploded, Suyu would be like a balloon. He would explode, and his body and soul would be destroyed. The outcome would be even more tragic than having his body taken over. The situation was not optimistic. This was an even greater danger than Dark Suyu. Chapter 609. "Sir," sensing that Suyu had entered, Wu Aoyue immediately rushed over with a delighted look on her face. "Sir, let's talk about it later. How's the chaos multicolored butterfly?" Suyu interrupted her and asked directly. Wu Aoyue was startled, as she had never seen Suyu treat her so coldly. She felt slightly uncomfortable, but she still obediently took out the jade box. Inside the jade box was a round and fat worm the size of a grain of rice. It was wriggling on the withered heavenly orchid silver bamboo. Holding the jade box in his hand, Suyu threw away the heavenly orchid silver bamboo seedling that he had snatched back. "Cultivate again." After saying this, he immediately exited the 9-jade spiritual pearl. Looking at the space fluctuation that had disappeared, Wu Aoyue's mood sank. She took out a colorful armor from her pocket. It was soft and light, like a cotton coat. The Thunder Herb armor had been successfully crafted. She had spent a lot of effort to craft it. Touching her pale face and looking at her red fingers, Wu Aoyue laughed at herself. "I almost forgot my identity. I'm just a servant. How could I dare to call myself Master's friend?" In order to complete it as soon as possible, she had worked day and night to finally craft the Thunder Herb armor. She had wanted to give Suyu a surprise. What she got in return was Suyu's indifference as he came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Perhaps this was the true attitude that Suyu should have towards her. While mocking herself, Wu Aoyue replanted the heavenly orchid silver bamboo seedling in the supreme growing soil nursery. However, her eyes were dull and listless. She did not know that Suyu was facing a life-threatening crisis. Time was of the essence, so he had no time to care about her. After returning to his body, Suyu opened the jade box without hesitation. Staring at the rice-sized worm, Suyu's eyes shone brightly. "It's up to you now. Don't disappoint me." The ancient spiritual worm, which had awakened from the heavenly orchid silver bamboo seed, could even devour the heavenly orchid silver bamboo. Even a later stage fairy would not be able to destroy the heavenly orchid silver bamboo. Apart from it, Suyu could not think of any other container that could contain the enormous energy in his body. Feeling the energy in his body start to riot, Suyu's heart tightened. He grabbed the chaos multicolored butterfly and placed it on his finger. At the same time, under Suyu's guidance, the enormous energy in his body flowed towards his fingers in an orderly manner. After 3 breaths, Suyu's face became gloomy as he discovered that the chaos multicolored butterfly was not interested in him at all. It was lying lazily on his finger, motionless, and had no intention of absorbing his energy. Could it be that it was only interested in the energy of heaven and earth spiritual objects? As he thought of this, Suyu's heart sank. At this moment, he could already feel a faint swelling pain in his fingers, a sign that he had accumulated too much energy. Suyu's mind turned quickly, and he thought of all the ways he could use to transfer the energy. There was too much energy in his body, and it was not impossible for him to use divine abilities to vent the energy. But the problem was that the violent energy explosion was imminent, and he didn't have enough time. Before the energy was completely released, it would explode in a concentrated manner and cause Suyu to explode. They could only transfer their energy to other living beings in an extremely short period of time. However, the chaos multicolored butterfly didn't seem to be interested. Just as Suyu was getting anxious, the chaos multicolored butterfly suddenly moved. It turned its body over lazily and moved its lips towards Suyu's finger. Instantly, the energy accumulated at the fingertip was sucked dry. Then it lay down again, lazily as ever. Suyu was startled by this, but he soon understood. Is it because the energy accumulated at the fingertip is too little? Is that why it is too lazy to move? As he thought of this, Suyu tried again. Sure enough, it was too lazy to move at first, and it only moved its but when it could gather the energy to the maximum limit that its finger could bear. Then, it opened its mouth and sucked the energy before lying down lazily again. Upon seeing this, Suyu's heart calmed down. He grabbed it and placed it on his abdomen. This was where the dantian was located, and it was where the energy was gathered. The lazy chaos multicolored butterfly's whole body became alert, and its seemingly clumsy round body turned over and stood up. Then, it wiggled its butt excitedly and stuck itself to Suyu's abdomen. Then it started sucking in the huge amount of energy that was constantly being released. In an instant, Suyu felt that 10% of the excess energy in his body had been sucked away. Suyu was quite surprised. Even 10% of the energy was equivalent to the energy of an early-stage fairy. But the chaos multicolored butterfly only needed a mouthful. Moreover, it was still far from being satisfied. As time elapsed, the energy in Suyu's body was being sucked away by the chaos multicolored butterfly at a shocking speed. After 8 consecutive times, the chaos multicolored butterfly's body had become much bigger than before, and its body was covered in a faintly discernible green halo. After swallowing enough energy, the chaos multicolored butterfly started to change. However, what made Suyu feel uneasy was that the chaos multicolored butterfly's swallowing speed was becoming slower and slower, and the last 20% of the energy had already started to explode. Slurp! The chaos multicolored butterfly swallowed the last 2 times, but only managed to swallow 10% of the energy. Then it lay down lazily, and after a short while, it fell into a deep sleep and started digesting the huge amount of energy that it had just swallowed. As the last 10% of the energy had nowhere to go, it finally exploded within Suyu's body. All of a sudden, the tyrannical energy filled Suyu's limbs and bones like a volcano eruption. The tyrannical fluctuations were like a torrent. Wherever they passed, his flesh swelled up, and his internal energy channels were in acute pain. Suyu's body also swelled up slightly, and the originally thin Suyu now looked slightly chubby. Suyu, who was already injured and weak, couldn't bear such a torment. After clenching his teeth for a moment, he groaned in pain and passed out. Before he passed out, he didn't forget to put away the bug and threw it into the 9-jade spiritual pearl. Thump! With a dull thud, dust flew everywhere, and Suyu fell straight into the dust. His body was still expanding, and before Suyu could wake up, his body would burst open. There was no one around, and Suyu was the only one in a coma, enduring the impending death. Swoosh! However, at that moment, an ancient jade box suddenly flew out of Suyu's chest. From the jade box, a very solid soul body floated out. Who else could it be but Yun Yazi? Sigh, am I being too harsh? Yun Yazi sighed softly, and with a wave of his hand, the energy that was wreaking havoc in Suyu's body was forcibly expelled. The swollen Suyu gradually returned to normal, and the painful look on his face gradually disappeared. Not long after, he regained his human color. His old palm brushed past Suyu's body, and wherever it passed, all the injuries were healed, not even leaving a scar. In the twinkling of an eye, Suyu's injuries had completely healed. When his palm brushed past Suyu's head, Yun Yazi stopped, and a pensive look appeared on his face. The evil energy that is confined in my soul space seems familiar. Could it be the blood of that clan? It doesn't seem possible, as that clan should have already perished. Swoosh! Yun Yazi disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was in Suyu's soul sphere, which was in the 18th layer of hell. Who is it? Evil Blood, who was still attacking the cage with all his might, suddenly detected a disturbance behind him. When he turned his head to take a look, he was startled. Who are you? How did you get in here? Evil Blood couldn't believe it, as this soul cage was extremely hard, yet the old man behind him had managed to enter it easily. It's really that clan's aura? I didn't expect that the evil god clan, which had already perished long ago, still had a remnant bloodline left in this world. It really surprises me. Yin Yazi seemed to have verified his guess, as he stroked his goatee and spoke slowly. Who are you? Why are you looking for me? Evil Blood was startled, as he couldn't believe that Yun Yazi was able to discern his origin just by observing his aura. Yun Yazi replied calmly, I'm this body's master, so why do you think I'm looking for you? Master? Evil Blood was slightly startled, as he didn't know that this body had such a mysterious and unfathomable master. What? Do you want to kill me? Evil Blood asked coldly. Yun Yazi stroked his goatee and said, I originally planned to do so to prevent future troubles, but after I ascertained your origin, I changed my mind. Rather than killing you, it would be better for me to leave a good fortune for my disciple, as he might be able to change his fate one day. Ha! Change his fate? You want me to serve him? Dream on. Evil Blood laughed heartily. However, his laughter suddenly stopped, as Yun Yazi extended his finger and pointed it at Evil Blood. Evil Blood was instantly frozen, and he couldn't move at all. Evil Blood's consciousness was overwhelmed with shock. What kind of technique is this? Even though he was just a drop of evil blood, his soul was so powerful that even an all-creation old monster couldn't compare to him. Yet, this old man, who was also a soul body, was able to freeze him with just a single finger. In other words, he could annihilate him with a single move. Evil Blood's heart trembled, and fear welled up in his heart. Your Excellency, who are you? Yun Yazi calmly retracted his finger and said, You don't need to know who I am. As long as you do as I say, I will give you a chance in the future to reconstruct your fleshly body. What? Your Excellency, can you really help me reconstruct my fleshly body? Evil Blood asked in surprise. I never go back on my words, Yun Yazi calmly said. Evil Blood fixed his gaze on Yun Yazi's expression, and after hesitating for a while, he finally clenched his teeth and said, Fine. Tell me, how should I help this lad? Should I help him when he is in trouble? With me here, do you think that you still need to help him? Yun Yazi said, He can resolve his troubles by himself, and even if it is a life and death crisis, you don't need to help him. Evil Blood was startled, but he immediately understood Yun Yazi's intention. He couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. He was almost possessed by me, yet you didn't show up. Such a strict teacher is really rare. Your Excellency, aren't you afraid that he won't appreciate your good intentions and will hate you instead? You don't need to worry about that. If he really couldn't understand my painstaking efforts, I wouldn't have taken him as my disciple that day. I can still see through him. Yun Yazi flicked his sleeves and said, I only need you to do one thing for me. What is it? Evil Blood was curious. Yun Yazi said meaningfully, the thing that your evil god's bloodline is best at. Chapter 6:10. Forgive me for being blunt, but even you might not be able to bear it, let alone him. Your actions will only bring about his own destruction, the Evil Blood said. Yun Yazi laughed. Everything depends on his luck. If he can reach that stage, you can fulfill your promise. All right, but I hope you can fulfill your promise. Reconstructing your body must be an extremely difficult task for you, right? Yun Yazi smiled. I never go back on my promises. Just wait for the right time. After saying this, Yun Yazi withdrew from Suyu's soul. Looking at Suyu, who had fallen into a deep sleep, he thought for a moment, then casually threw out a light screen to envelop Suyu. Suyu, who had clearly been lying on the ground, disappeared after being enveloped. Only the soul could see a blurry figure where he had been. At the same time, Yun Yazi raised his hand and grabbed. Suyu's 9 jade spiritual pearl flashed, and the little Kylan was taken out. Facing Yun Yazi, the little Kylan was extremely afraid. Its whole body was trembling, and it lay on the ground, not daring to move. Oh, your spiritual intelligence is not bad. It seems like you can sense my aura. Yun Yazi placed it in the light screen. I have something to do, so I'll be back soon. Protect him for the time being. After saying this, Yun Yazi looked up at the top of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, then disappeared. The gap in the mysterious heavenly stage had been closed. The divine masters and the geniuses who had entered had all returned to the mysterious heavenly stage. Yin-Yang Old Man weaved signs with both hands and retrieved the golden ring. Thank you for your hard work, Yin-Yang Uncle Master, Lu Chui said as she helped from the side. Yin-Yang Old Man nodded. No worries. However, his black and white eyes suddenly emitted 2 beams of light, one black and one white. He shouted in shock, "Who's there?" His shout made all the divine masters on the scene wary. Someone who could shock Yin-Yang Old Man like this must be a powerful existence. Gu Taishu floated in the air, looking around, but not noticing anything strange. Senior brother, what happened? Yin-Yang Old Man looked around nervously, his chest heaving up and down, showing his panic. Junior brother, when I retrieved the golden ring just now, it seemed like a soul had rushed out. Very strong, the strongest I've ever seen in my life. Old Man Yin-Yang's voice trembled with fear. Gu Taishu's eyes narrowed slightly, and Lu Chui's expression turned grave as well. Senior brother, you must have felt the master's soul, right? Gu Taishu asked meaningfully. Old Man Yin-Yang understood what he meant and secretly transmitted his voice. Junior brother, we have to report this to Master. If my Yin-Yang, I didn't sense wrongly, even Master is inferior to him. Gu Taishu's pupils constricted. The true man of the purple cloud, an all creation's old monster, was not as powerful as that soul body. The 3 demon clan divine masters, including Zi Qianqiu, did not know what the 2 of them were talking about, but judging from their expressions, it seemed like an extremely terrifying soul had barged in. Could it be the evil being that destroyed Hong Luan's soul fragment? Someone muttered. This murmur caused the entire place to fall into a deathly silence. Gu Taishu and the Yin-Yang Old Man looked at each other, and they both saw fear in each other's eyes. Perhaps only the soul body from just now could kill the split soul of an all-creation old monster. After remaining silent for a moment, Gu Taishu nodded his head deeply. His gaze then turned cold as he looked around. All right, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is closed. I believe that everyone has already returned. Even if he did not take the initiative to return, he would still be forcefully teleported back to the mysterious heavenly stage by the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Now, Inu, tell me, who else can save you? Gu Taishu laughed coldly. Zi Qianshou also regained his senses, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Oof. Inu, do you need us to invite you out? Surprisingly, the two opposing experts had a tacit understanding and did not argue. They knew all too well how cunning Inu was. Once they got into an argument, it would definitely cause chaos, and this kid would definitely find an opening to escape. Lu Qi's heart tightened. She had already been searching for Su Yu among the crowd, and her heart was burning with anxiety. Once he was discovered by Gu Taishu and Zi Qianshou, his soul would surely be destroyed. At that time, should she have made a move? Gu Taishu's and Zi Qianshou's men were already conducting a thorough investigation as they struggled internally. If their true bodies were to personally inspect, it would definitely not be as slow as it was on the mysterious heavenly platform. With a sweep of their gazes, no disguise could be hidden. Lu Qi's fingers dug into her palms, and her heart was in pain. However, as time passed, there was still no movement from either side. Lu Qi looked up curiously, and she was shocked. She saw that Gu Taishu and Zi Qianshou's expressions were strangely similar. Shock, disbelief, indignation, and gloominess appeared on both of their faces at the same time. Inyang old man retracted his black and white gaze and asked in confusion, "Where is he? Since the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion has ended, that kid should have been transported back." Gu Taishu was indignant, and he continued his inspection. However, after carefully observing everyone, he was sure that no one was Su Yu. His expression turned ugly. Could it be that he has already died in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion? When he had left, Hong Wan's soul had been present, and the possibility that he had been killed by Hong Wan's soul was too high. Moreover, after Hong Wan obtained the real spirit, she was killed by the evil being, and the real spirit might have been obtained by the evil being. That soul body just now, Inyang old man said. Hearing this, the expressions of all the divine masters present turned ugly. That evil being was too terrifying, and apart from Gu Taishu, no one else would dare to fight it head-on. If the real spirit had been obtained by the evil being, then all their efforts would have been in vain. At that moment, a weak voice came from the crowd. Wait, there might be another possibility. The person who had spoken was Inyang old man, and his eyes were filled with a thoughtful look. Before coming here, I borrowed the letters of the previous mysterious heavenly divine pavilions from the depository of Buddhist scriptures to understand some information. I accidentally read a piece of news from a disciple's letter. That disciple was a disciple from 100 years ago, and he had participated in the first mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. According to his recollection, when they participated for the first time, they encountered cultivators who were not from Juzhou. They claimed to be from the Zhenlong continent. Could it be that Su Yu is also from the Zhenlong continent, and was thus transported back to the Zhenlong continent instead of Zhuzhou? Hearing this, the crowd fell into deep thought. They recalled how Su Yu had killed their disciples without any scruples, and how he had openly sold their treasures. The crowd's hearts gradually turned cold. Perhaps he really was a cultivator from a foreign continent. If he is from the Zhenlong continent, then it will be troublesome, one of the demon faction's divine masters muttered. That place is located in the crevice between Jiuzhou and the ghost world, and it is a separate world. Even our divine masters are unable to cross the crevice to descend, so it is almost impossible for us to find that lad. His words caused Zi Qianshou's face to turn gloomy. He is actually from that place. No wonder he dared to kill our demon faction's people. Zi Qianshou hated Su Yu to the core, but he could do nothing to him after hearing that he was from the Zhenlong continent. The other god lords were either regretful or unwilling. All of them had different expressions. Even the expressions of many of the faction's fairy realm experts did not look too good. After all, Su Yu had killed many of their faction's disciples, and there were many of them who hated him. Knowing such a reality, it was easy to imagine how aggrieved and depressed they felt. Only Lu Qi was stunned. She pursed her lips and smiled secretly. This bad guy made me worry for nothing. What no one noticed was that when Gu Taishu heard the words Zhenlong continent, a strange light flickered in his eyes and a cold smile flashed past his lips. Zhenlong continent, we will meet again very soon. Millions of mountains and rivers away. In a valley filled with flowers, the spring sun was shining brightly. This was the forbidden valley of the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and it was called the 100 Flowers Valley. It was not because the valley was special, but because there was a terrifying existence living in it. It was the all-creation old monster, Inspector Hong Wan. Outside the valley, there were 10 divine masters who willingly submitted to her. They were willing to be her guards, and they were proud of it. However, this did not stop them from fawning over the all-creation old monster. Amidst the hundreds of flowers in the valley, a woman with an ordinary appearance sat cross-legged on a large tree. She was extremely charming. She was wearing a long, enchanting robe, and her chest and back were exposed. She was extremely charming, and even a single look at her could make any man fall into a trance. All of a sudden, a soul fragment passed through the valley. Swoosh! The enchanting woman grabbed the soul fragment, and her eyes were filled with shock. A soul fragment? Who did this? Filled with shock, the enchanting woman placed the soul fragment on her forehead. The soul fragment, which contained her memory, copied everything that had happened in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. What? An ancient spiritual body? The Divine Lady Clan? Moreover, it has a purity of 30%? The woman suddenly opened her eyes, which shone with shock and excitement. Then her face fell. The asterisk M in it. It was destroyed by a mysterious lad, and my soul fragment was destroyed. How dare he? The woman was furious, but suddenly she was slightly stunned. Wait, that evil energy seems to be similar to the legendary evil god clan. Her pretty eyes were filled with shock. If it is really that race, then, however, at that moment, an old man sighed in the valley. So what? Fortunately, I followed this soul fragment back. Otherwise, if this matter was exposed, it would be very troublesome. Who is it? The woman was shocked. Someone had entered the valley without her noticing. Creak! The space in front of her was suddenly torn apart, and an old man walked out of it. It was Yun Yazi, who had followed the soul fragment. This enchanting woman was, without a doubt, Hong Wan herself. A soul body. Hong Wan's pupils shrank, and her eyelids twitched. Looking at the soul body in front of her, she felt as if she was facing an abyss, which made her feel extremely uneasy. May I ask who you are? Hong Wan asked seriously. Yun Yazi clasped his hands behind his back, and his expression was calm. Me? Su Yu's teacher. What? That lad's teacher? Hong Wan was extremely shocked. That lad actually had such a terrifying teacher? Chapter 6:11. What do you want? Your disciple was unintentionally offended by my soul fragment. Since my soul fragment has been destroyed, we could be considered to be even. Your disciple should have told you about this, right? Hong Wan was secretly on guard. Yun Yazi said indifferently, when my disciples are wronged, they never tell me. Then, could it be that you heard it from someone? Hong Wan was puzzled. Yun Yazi shook his head. I didn't hear it from anyone. I just saw it with my own eyes. You were there? Hong Wan was extremely shocked. Why hadn't she sensed anything at all? If that's the case, why didn't you appear at that time? Yun Yazi said nothing. Hong Wan understood. Could it be that he was tempering his disciple? Although she was surprised by Yun Yazi's actions, the main point of her attention was, since he didn't make a move then, why are you here now? Yun Yazi slowly lowered his hands from behind his back. A cold light gradually appeared in his eyes. As a teacher, how can I really watch my disciple being bullied by others and remain indifferent? Back then, I didn't make a move because I was stimulating his potential. Now that I'm making a move, I'm helping him get rid of unnecessary trouble. If Suyu had been present, he would have been shocked. This was the first time Yun Yazi had shown an expression of anger. He recalled how Suyu had begged him for the first time, not even hesitating to kneel down and beg him. Even now, Yun Yazi still felt terrible when he thought of that miserable, desolate, helpless, and despairing expression. Su Yu, who would rather die than ask for his help, had been forced into such a situation. Who knew the pain and anger in Yun Yazi's heart when he rejected Su Yu's request? Such a strong disciple was bullied to such an extent. Sensing Yun Yazi's killing intent, Hongwan suddenly became nervous. You want to fight here? This place was deep within the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. With such a commotion, the other two old monsters would most likely rush over. Shouldn't you think it through first? Yun Yazi shook his head indifferently. So what if they come? If anyone dares to obstruct us, we'll just kill them all. After saying that, Yun Yazi's palm slapped through the air. It looked like a casual palm strike. However, Hong Wan seemed to feel some kind of terrifying power. She was so frightened that her whole body trembled. She did not even resist. She could only let out a hysterical scream. Divine power, you are. God! Bang! With a muffled sound, Hong Wan's voice came to an abrupt end. His body was still standing in the same place, not moving at all. However, his eyes quickly dimmed and turned into a deathly gray. His vitality was quickly extinguished. A mighty all-creation adept had been killed with a single palm strike. Yun Yazi withdrew his palm, took a step forward with his hands behind his back, and disappeared into the void. From start to finish, it had only been a breath of time. In the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, two extremely powerful fluctuations appeared at the same time in two mysterious places. Half a day later, two hazy balls of light descended, one in black and the other in white, each standing on one side of Hong Wan's corpse. Who did it? Is it the king of Jiuzhou? The voice of the white figure was extremely old, and there was a deep sense of shock in its tone. A crisp voice came from within the black light shadow. Perhaps, as an all-creation's old monster, I can't help myself in this battle for supremacy. I'm afraid that we're in trouble. The patrol envoy died in our territory. That king will probably make use of this to make things difficult for us. You and I should hurry back and make preparations. The black figure seemed to be in a hurry as he left. After standing there for a while, the white figure also left anxiously. No one knew what kind of changes the death of this all-creation old monster would bring to the 18 blessed and heavenly lands. In the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, Xia Jingyu hurriedly chased after Su Yu. The shocking evil energy made Xia Jingyu feel extremely uneasy. Her intuition told her that it wasn't Su Yu, but someone else who had taken over Su Yu's body. Xia Jingyu chased after him, following the evil energy that filled the sky. However, at that moment, the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion suddenly started shaking. A formless space power descended upon the bodies of all the outsiders, enveloping them and transporting them out of this place. No, wait. Xia Jingyu's face was filled with anxiety. As Su Yu's life and death were unknown, she couldn't leave just yet. But how could Xia Jingyu resist the rules of the fairy artifact? With a swoosh, Xia Jingyu was swept away. What she didn't notice was that the moment she was swept away, a transparent fragment had attached itself to her body. Similar scenes were happening all over the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, at the mysterious heavenly stage of the Jinlong continent. With a swoosh, many geniuses appeared at the same time. Xia Jingyu, Gang Dalai, Qin Jiuyang, and Qin Yushan, the three geniuses of the ancient clan, the few lords of the Empire of Darkness. However, the few top-notch geniuses were nowhere to be seen. Su Yu, Long Wuxin, the Ghost King, and Bai Luo, who were ranked first in the competition, had disappeared without a trace and had yet to return. The female geniuses of the ancient clan and the Heavenly Law Alliance's Qin Xiener had also disappeared. Since they hadn't been transported back, they must have met with misfortune. They had lost more than half of their people, which meant that they had suffered heavy casualties. When Xia Jingyu's feet landed on the ground, she hurriedly surveyed her surroundings to look for that person. However, the person who had been engraved in the deepest part of her heart was nowhere to be seen. She was stunned, as she clearly understood what this meant. It meant that Suyu had most likely met with misfortune. She couldn't accept this reality. After all, she had finally shared her feelings with Suyu and found out that Suyu had a place for her in his heart. But this was the end result. Did the Black Snow Devil King not return? Gang Dalei sighed as he surveyed his surroundings. Qin Zhuoyang also noticed that he had disappeared and was disappointed. I didn't expect that Brother Black Snow would also die. He even saved my life. I have returned, but he has yet to return. The few great lords of darkness also sighed inwardly. He also saved us. All of them were indebted to Suyu. However, even though they had returned, Suyu had remained behind forever. Perhaps this is fate, Gang Dalei sighed. Opportunities have nothing to do with cultivation. Our abilities might not be on par with theirs, but our opportunities are better. It wasn't easy for us to return alive from the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, so we should adapt to life in the Jinlong continent, Gang Dalei comforted the crowd. Hearing this, the crowd slowly nodded. The 2 months they had spent in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion felt like 2 long years. They had experienced many things that they couldn't even experience in the Jinlong continent. Where are our teachers? And where are your elders? Gang Dalei looked around him and suddenly discovered that the mysterious heavenly stage was completely silent. There wasn't even a single person in sight. There was also a thick layer of dust on the ground, which was 3 inches thick. It seemed like no one had set foot on it for 2 years. What's going on? We only left for 2 months, so why does it feel like 2 years have passed? Also, where are the others? Why didn't they wait for us? The geniuses of the ancient clan noticed that something was amiss. Gang Dalei crossed his arms in front of his chest and said in a deep voice, "The flow of time in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion is 10 times slower than in the Jinlong continent. 2.5 years have passed in the Jinlong continent, but only 2 months have passed in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. That's not a big deal. The strange thing is, where did they go? It seems like they all left as soon as we entered. Did your elders tell you that they would leave early?" Gang Dalei looked around at them. In fact, even if their elders had left due to some matters, it was still strange that no one had come to welcome them after 2 months had passed. The 3 ancient clans shook their heads. They said that they would wait for us to leave. Gang Dalei had a strange look on his face. Elder Gio had also said that he would wait for them for 2 years. However, even Elder Gio had disappeared. This meant that something big must have happened in the Jinlong continent, that even Elder Gio had to leave. What had happened in the Jinlong continent during the 2 years that they had been away? Everyone, I will take my leave first. Gang Dalei had a bad premonition, so he left first. Qin Zhuoyang and Qin Yushan also cupped their fists at the crowd and left hurriedly. The 3 ancient clans also had a bad premonition, so they all left. Lord Yu, should we go back and report to the king? Lord Qing, Zhu asked respectfully. At this moment, he no longer had any thoughts about Xia Jingyu. The current Xia Jingyu was emitting a faintly discernible vital energy pressure, which was a sign that she had reached the half-fairy realm. However, as a half-god, he felt very restrained in front of her. All of you go back first. Take this sound transmitting jade pendant with you. I still have important matters to attend to, so I can't go back for now. Xia Jingyu threw a jade pendant at him, along with the Empire of Darkness's inherited treasure, the Feather Needle of Darkness. How could Lord Qing Zhu not know what Xia Jingyu was planning to do? She was waiting for Suyu. Although he was unwilling, he did not dare to stop her, so he left the mysterious heavenly stage with the other lords. Only Xia Jingyu was left in the spacious plaza, in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Suyu slowly turned around. The lingering pain in his body made him grimace. "You are awake?" A warm voice came from behind him. When he turned around, he saw that it was Yun Yazi, who was standing with his hands behind his back. Suyu was startled. "Greetings, master. Thank you for helping me." He reacted quickly. Before he had fainted, he had been aware of his own condition. He knew that his body was about to explode and die. Now that he was safe and sound, without even a single injury, it was undoubtedly Yun Yazi who had helped him. "Your performance is unexpectedly good." Yin Yazi turned around, his kind face full of gratification and praise. Your potential has exceeded my expectations. Su Yu's potential was evident from the fact that he had managed to survive after fighting so many strong enemies. Su Yu said modestly, I was just lucky and picked up some treasures. I barely survived until now. Haha, no need to be humble. Take a look at your body's condition first. Yin Yazi laughed. Su Yu's heart shook. He immediately checked himself and was surprised to find that the second vital energy crystal in his dantian had already been formed. He had already become a 2 crystals half fairy. This must have been caused by the explosion of the enormous amount of energy in Su Yu's dantian. The pressure on the second spirit crystal had caused the spirit crystal to mutate and form a second vital energy crystal. An additional vital energy crystal meant that Su Yu's vital energy had doubled. Not only was the might of the treasures he could use stronger, but he could also last longer. He would not be in danger like before, when his vital energy and spiritual energy would be depleted at every turn. What else? Yin Yazi asked with a smile. What else? Su Yu checked himself again. There were no more changes to his body and cultivation. Chapter 6:12. He felt that his mind was unprecedentedly clear. His thoughts were nimble, and he felt much more relaxed. Some techniques that had been difficult to comprehend in the past were now easily comprehended. The heaven-sun gazing at air technique that he had been unable to break through for so long had finally entered stage 2. Congratulations, you can officially begin cultivating the heaven-sun gazing at air technique. Yin Yazi was pleased. I expected you to need 2 years to enter stage 2. I did not expect you to succeed in just half a year. The first stage of the heaven-sun gazing at air technique, the soul-changing realm, was the basic level. Only after mastering it would one be considered to have officially entered the heaven-sun gazing at air technique. Moreover, only after mastering the first stage would the contents of the second stage appear. So you immediately took out the bronze plate. As expected, following the first stage, the contents of the second stage appeared. The Imperial Soul Realm. The mythical realm is divided into 4 levels: entry, lower class, upper class, and top class. At the entry level, one can control a soul that is 1 level higher than oneself. At the lower class level, one can control 2 souls that are 1 level higher than oneself. At the upper class level, one can control 4 souls that are 1 level higher than oneself. At the top class level, one can control 8 souls that are 1 level higher than oneself and form the 8 souls demon subduing formation. Its power depends on the strength of the souls being controlled. Just looking at the first stage, Su Yu was shocked beyond words. What did it mean to be 1 level higher? It meant that if Su Yu could break through to the fairy realm one day, he could directly control a divine master. With each stage of cultivation, the number of souls he could control would increase exponentially. In fact, at stage 4, he could control 8 souls at the same time. Imagine Su Yu bringing along 8 divine masters. Although Jiuzhou was vast, where could he not go? Su Yu carefully read through the requirements with excitement. There are 2 requirements to cultivate to stage 2. First, the person being controlled must not have any sense of resistance. Second, the user must have an extremely strong soul. The minimum requirement is 3 times that of someone of the same level. The first requirement was not unexpected to Su Yu. The second requirement made Su Yu feel relieved. No wonder the second stage was built on the foundation of the first stage. After mastering the first stage, the soul would be 3 times that of someone of the same level. From now on, I'll temporarily stop cultivating and start officially guiding you in the cultivation of the heaven-sun gazing at air. As long as you cultivate it to perfection, you'll basically be invincible among those of the same realm. Yin Yazi was filled with anticipation. When Su Yu heard what was said, he was delighted. Yin Yazi had not given him much pointers. If he were to give him pointers personally, his stage 2 legendary level would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. However, Master, with my current abilities, I can even fight against fairies with the help of many treasures. So, wouldn't this technique be useless? After Suyu had calmed down from his excitement, he thought about it carefully and suddenly felt that this was the case. Yin Yazi chuckled. How many fairies have you fought fairly with? How many have you defeated? Suyu sank into deep thought. The only true fairy realm martial artists that he had come into contact with were Shenggu by Yi Jian and Shang Wanqing. Other than them, there was no one else. Lu Chuyi by Zhe, who had drunk the blood wine, the soul old man, the ghost king, the demon, Zi Qianshou, Gu Taishu, and the others were either in soul bodies or only had physical bodies of the fairy realm. Moreover, they were all being suppressed by the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. The only fairy realm martial artists that Suyu had come into contact with were Shenggu and Bai Yijian. Shenggu was afraid of being transported, so she had not used her fairy realm powers before she was subdued by Suyu. Bai Yijian and Shang Wanqing had died unexpectedly before they could even fight. Speaking of which, Suyu might not even have defeated a true fairy realm martial artist. Thinking of this, Suyu's heart trembled. He had continuously relied on powerful treasures to severely injure his enemies. Unknowingly, he had become careless and started to look down on fairy realm martial artists. It seems like you have thought it through. You don't need my advice, Yin Yazi said. This place has a strong suppression on abilities. The so-called fairy realm martial artists that you have met might not even be able to use their full abilities. If this was the outside world, you would most likely be the one at a disadvantage. Now, your prototype fairy artifact is in the process of refining the Thunder Spirit. The fusion of the origin will kill 1,000 enemies, but you will also suffer. You have continuously used the Great Sun Punishment Fairy picture, so the disastrous fire inside is not as strong as before. If you were to meet a Grade 4 fairy realm martial artist, how would you deal with him? Hearing this, Suyu wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. If that was really the case, the situation would be extremely dangerous. The 3 treasures that were his trump cards all had certain flaws, especially the Great Sun Punishment Fairy picture. The first time he had used it to deal with a demon, he had released half of the disastrous fire. The second time he had used it to deal with Hong Wan's crystal world, he had released a small portion. Now, he had released another small portion to deal with Gu Taishu. Now, the remaining disastrous fire was pitifully small. It might be effective against early-stage fairy realm martial artists, but against higher levels, it would be very difficult. Thank you for your teachings, Master. Suyu stopped underestimating him. Yin Yazi smiled. This is what makes me feel most at ease about you. You are a cautious person. I need to rest for a while. If you have any questions, you can ask them now. He had traveled hundreds of millions of miles to destroy all creation realm martial artists, so he needed to rest for a while. Master, you mentioned Grade 4 Fairy Realm just now. What level is that? Why have I only heard of early, middle, and late stages of Fairy Realm martial artists? Suyu asked curiously. Yin Yazi said, It's simple. Even among early-stage fairies, there are different levels. Grade 1 is the lowest, Grade 2 is slightly higher, Grade 3 is the best early-stage fairy realm martial artist, and so on. Middle-stage fairies are divided into Grade 4, Grade 5, and Grade 6, while late-stage fairies are divided into Grade 7, Grade 8, and Grade 9. Hearing this, Suyu suddenly understood. Indeed, although they were both early-stage fairies, Bai Yijian was stronger than Shenggu. He seemed to be a Grade 3 peak early-stage fairy realm martial artist, while Shenggu was probably just a Grade 1 low-stage fairy realm martial artist. Between each grade, there is a huge gap in power. If the difference in magical treasures and cultivation techniques is not huge, the top grade level will usually crush the bottom grade level. Someone like Suyu, who was able to skip a few grades, was definitely an anomaly among anomalies. Master, I once fought with a soul body. He released something called the original soul ice flame, which froze the souls of living creatures. Master, is this a cultivation technique? Why does a soul have an ice attribute? When he had fought with the soul old man, he had released such a troublesome ice flame, and Suyu had almost been hit. It is still too early for you to think about this. You should at least wait until your soul reaches the Divine Master level before you can cultivate the original soul. Yin Yazi said, Humans have personalities, and there are millions of people with millions of different personalities. Souls also have soul lattices, and they all have different attributes. The ice attribute is the soul lattice of your enemy's soul. Different people have different soul lattices. There is no need to be envious. When your soul is strong enough to reach the divine master level, the soul lattice will appear on its own. Hearing this, Su Yu understood. There were such benefits after breaking through to the divine master level. Do you have any more questions? Yin Yazi asked. Su Yu shook his head. Master, please rest. I have some matters to attend to. Yin Yazi nodded. All right. As long as you stay within the light barrier that I left behind, you will not be transported out for the time being. You can settle your matters with ease. Su Yu smiled. Actually, with the mysterious heavenly map, even without the light barrier, he would not be transported out. With a thought, Su Yu's soul entered the 9 jade spiritual pearl. Aoyue, what did you want to say just now? Su Yu teleported to the front of the thatched hut and asked. Wu Aoyue lowered her head and silently took out the thunder herb armor. It has been successfully crafted. She offered it to Su Yu with both hands. Wu Aoyue laughed coldly in her heart. Your hand. Sai, you look haggard. So you did not take it. Instead, he first observed Wu Aoyue's swollen fingers, her haggard face, and her bloodshot eyes. Last time, when I was in a life-and-death situation, I left in a hurry. I did not notice your abnormality. I was careless. Su Yu sighed apologetically. Take the thunder herb armor first. I still have some time before I break through to the fairy realm. You can use it first. Hearing this, Wu Aoyue was stunned. Her ears turned numb, and she felt ashamed. He had been in danger the last time. No wonder he had left in such a hurry. She had even misunderstood that Su Yu was treating her coldly. Thinking about this, she suddenly felt that she had become much narrower. In the beginning, no matter how cold Su Yu had treated her, she would not have had any ill intentions. But now, she was sad because of Su Yu's momentary indifference. She could not help but mutter to herself, What's wrong with me? Is there a need to care about his attitude towards me? Rest well. If you need anything, just tell me. After saying this, Su Yu walked over to the underworld pearl. Without another word, Su Yu began to purify it with the Milky Way star sand, extracting the blood essence of the master of the ghost world. Only when he was mentally exhausted did Su Yu stop. Just like last time, he extracted 1% of the blood essence each time. That was his limit. If I can refine it completely, I wonder how powerful it will be. Su Yu's eyes were filled with anticipation as he turned to leave. Wu Aoyue paused, hesitating. Mister, don't you want to take a look at Shangge? She has already been punished. Shangge? Su Yu glanced at the corner of the valley. Shangge was still being burned by the soul flame. From her hateful gaze, it was obvious that she had not repented. Let her continue to stay here, Su Yu said expressionlessly. His soul dissipated, and Su Yu returned to his body. Extracting the underworld pearl had taken half a day. It is time to return to the Jinlong continent. Su Yu stood up and waved his hand to open the light screen. He also kept the mysterious heavenly map. The space energy of the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion descended, enveloping Su Yu and teleporting him away. I have been away for 2 months. I wonder how Palace Master Ling is. I have not returned for a long time. How is the Inu area? Has the slumbering Euro awakened? Has her appearance recovered? Is there anyone paying respects to Li Guang's grave? Is the Duke well? Was Jiang Xueqing still in that Taoist temple, her face bare? Is the master of the Phoenix Cabinet rebuilding the Phoenix Cabinet? Are Zidonglai and Zi Yunxiang well in the Heavenly Law Alliance? 2 months had passed, but Su Yu felt like 2 years had passed. Filled with anticipation, Su Yu entered the transportation portal. A silver light sent them from the boundless sky to the mysterious heavenly stage below. It was difficult for a person to open their eyes during the transportation. Su Yu had the soul eyes, so he was not affected. Looking up, he saw a majestic pavilion floating in the starry sky. The majestic starry sky and the beautiful, mysterious, heavenly divine pavilion were magnificent. As the pavilion got further away, Su Yu gradually felt himself sinking faster. Retracting his gaze, Su Yu looked down at the Jinlong continent. At this height, he might be able to see the entire Jinlong continent. Chapter 613. What appeared in Su Yu's vision was not the continent he had imagined, but a palm print, an unimaginably huge palm print. It was a blue star, shrouded in dense water vapor and surrounded by clouds. Less than 10% of it was a continent. However, the shape of the continent was not like the Earth of his previous life. Instead, it was a palm print that had been created by someone. The palm was the main trunk of the continent, and the center of the palm was where the Empire of Darkness headquarters was located. The four sides of the palm were the north, south, east, and west continents. The Wulong snowfield, which had existed since ancient times, spanned across the northern continent. The 100 Territories Alliance, the Phoenix Cabinet, and the Snow Listening Tower was actually a palm print. Most of the four fingers were covered by the water of the sea, and only a small portion was exposed. And the parts that were exposed were bits and pieces, countless small islands. Shenyue Island was the smallest island at the top of the index finger. This shocking scene caused Su Yu to sink into deep shock. The Jinlong continent, where he was actually a giant palm print. Perhaps the Jinlong continent had not been like this in the past, but had been smashed into this state by some mysterious giant palm. Su Yu had seen many similar palm prints along the way on Shenyue Island. Countless prosperous and distinct places had been destroyed by the palm print. Could the Jinlong continent have also been destroyed by the palm print? Who was it? Who had such magical powers? The answer was obvious. Only an all-creation old monster could be so terrifying. With deep shock and endless questions, Su Yu landed on the mysterious heavenly stage under the guidance of the silver light pillar. Every inch of dust was moving up and down. Su Yu waved his sleeves, immediately sensing that something was wrong. It was not strange that there was no one around. He had returned late, so it was normal for them to leave first. But why was the ground covered in dust for 2.5 years? It had only been 2.5 months since he had left. Is it because of the difference in the flow of time? Su Yu was proficient in the power of time, so he quickly understood this abnormal phenomenon. I did not expect the difference in the flow of time between us to be more than 10 times. Su Yu muttered, "Does this mean that I have already left the Jinlong continent for 2.5 years? Su Yu suddenly felt as if he had been in a dream. It was as if a woodcutter had entered a mountain to watch a mortal's play chess. When the game ended, 100 years had passed in the world. The vital energy I left for Palace Master Lingback then could only last him for half a year. Now that 2 years have passed, doesn't that mean? Su Yu's heart tightened as he came back to his senses. With a tap of his toes, Su Yu passed through the portal and arrived in the outside world. This place was an empty mountain peak. Looking down from above, one could see all the mountains and rivers as far as the eyes could see. Su Yu didn't have the time to admire it. He was just about to soar into the sky when a jade pendant beeped softly. Slightly taken aback, Zhang Xian lowered his head and saw a jade pendant clamped between the stone peaks of the mountain. If a human's aura approached, the jade pendant would sense it and emit a beeping sound. He grabbed it and crushed it. A mist gushed out from the jade pendant, and a picturesque and beautiful fairy rose from the mist. Xia Jingyu was left behind by her. Su Yu was surprised. Regardless of whether you are Su Yu or not, if you discover the message I left behind, please find a place to hide immediately and do not show yourself. Jinlong continent. It has fallen. His voice stopped abruptly and was covered by a few wild laughter. Quick, catch that woman. How dare she come back? Ha ha, we have a good show tonight. Crack. As the jade pendant was crushed, Su Yu's heart tightened. Someone is chasing after Xia Jingyu. What happened? Who in the Jinlong continent would dare to openly harm the Lord of Darkness? What happened to the Jinlong continent? What happened? How is Xia Jingyu now? Has she been caught? Su Yu, who had just returned, was instantly engulfed by endless worries. Suddenly, the Ghost King's warning appeared in Su Yu's mind. He had asked him to quickly leave the Jinlong continent before anything unexpected happened. Could it be that the Ghost King knew that the Jinlong continent was about to face a great crisis? Su Yu became even more nervous as he soared into the sky and chased after Xia Jingyu in the jade pendant. I hope that I can make it in time. Suyu's expression became slightly cold. With Suyu's current cultivation, he could travel 1,000,000 miles in just a few breaths' time. He had already chased after her for several hours and crossed 1,000,000 miles. He knew that such a blind search was like looking for a needle in a haystack. While they were escaping, Xia Jingyu could change direction at any time. But apart from this, Suyu had no other choice. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of fighting could be heard in the distance, along with a woman's delicate shout. It sounded vaguely familiar, but it was very vague and unclear. Could it be Xia Jingyu? Without hesitation, Suyu immediately flew over. Haha, there are still some decent people in this isolated, barbaric land of the Zhenlong continent. 2 men in white armor, one in front and one behind, had intercepted a team of 5 people. Among the team, there were 2 people that Suyu was familiar with. One of them was Gang Dalei, who had just returned from the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion 5 days ago. The other was the only woman in the team, Zi Yunxiang. After not seeing her for 2 years, Zi Yunxiang's strength had actually broken through from the Dragon Realm to the Heaven Master level. Suyu found it hard to believe that he had advanced so quickly. The other 3 people's cultivations were similar to Zi Yunxiang's. They were all at the Heaven Master level. Under Gang Dalei's lead, they seemed to be carrying out some mission. Unexpectedly, their tracks were exposed, and they were surrounded and intercepted by two Crystal's half-fairy realm experts. Among them, only Gang Dalei was a 2 Crystals half-fairy, and he had just broken through not long ago. Zi Yunxiang and the other 3 were only at the early stage of half-gods. They did not even have the strength of a half-fairy, so how could they be a match for them? Hee. Are you referring to their talents? The other man in white armor had an evil smile on his face as he stared at Zi Yunxiang. Of course it's their looks. Although they're not as good as the one we chased last time, they're still not bad. She managed to escape from that woman, so we cannot miss this one. We must enjoy ourselves tonight, so that our patrol of this place will not be in vain. The man in armor who had spoken first laughed. All right, let's deal with the leader first. He is a 2 Crystals half-fairy, and he should be considered one of the strongest youths in the Zhenlong continent. It's a pity that he ran into us. The 2 armored youths looked at each other and attacked at the same time. Gang Dalei's face was cold, and he clenched his teeth in hatred. You bastards! You burn, kill, and plunder. You are worse than beasts. Zi Yunxiang, quickly escape with them. I will hold them off for now. Gang Dalei tore off his robe, revealing his ferocious flood dragon head. This horrifying scene frightened the armored youths, and they all stopped in their tracks. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Zi Yunxiang gritted her teeth and led everyone to escape from the side. Follow me. After escaping for 3 miles, everyone should split up and run. Their target is me. She was very decisive, as she knew that her power was too low to help Gang Dalei. Moreover, Gang Dalei would lose his chance to escape because of her. She also knew that Gang Dalei's chances of escaping were close to 0. How could a newly advanced 2 Crystals half-fairy escape from 2 half-fairies? Bang! As if to verify her guess, a violent vibration came from behind her, along with Gang Dalei's painful groans and heavy coughs. You scare me to death. What kind of freak is this? The 2 armored youths worked together to slap Gang Dalei into the ground, leaving behind a large crater. Gang Dalei coughed up blood, his eyes filled with hatred. Yes, he is weaker than I expected. You go and capture that woman, and kill the rest. Leave this freak to me, one of the armored youths said confidently. Okay, I guarantee that I won't fail again. Tonight, I will get the beauty. Let's have some fun. The other armored youth's gaze fell on Zi Yunxiang, who was running away. Her slender figure was as beautiful as a butterfly. Although she was panicking, she still had a natural and simple aura. Although such a woman wasn't extremely beautiful, she was still a rare beauty. Since he had encountered her, how could he let her go? Swoosh! The armored youth turned into a gust of wind and chased after her at lightning speed. There was a huge disparity between their cultivations, so he caught up in the blink of an eye. Zi Yunxiang's face was filled with shame and anger, and she felt hopeless. Do I have to suffer such humiliation even before I die? However, just as the armored young man excitedly stretched out his hand, a pink mist suddenly swirled in the space in front of him, and a yawning little Chelan swayed as it walked out of the pink mist. Its body was covered with pink scales, and it had a small horn that had just protruded. It looked extremely charming and cute. At this moment, it seemed like it had just woken up, and its beautiful purple gem-like eyes stared blankly at the human face in front of it. The armored youth was startled. Where did this demonic beast come from? Before he could react, his vision darkened, and the dazed little Kylan instinctively swung its hoof at him and stepped on his face. Ah! A miserable shriek echoed. He had been charging forward at full speed, yet he was suddenly swung by the little Kylan's hoof. How powerful was the impact! He immediately spouted out a mouthful of blood along with his 2 front teeth. His body was also sent rolling on the ground like a cannonball. As for the little Kylan, when it swung its hoof, it directly turned illusory, and the recoil didn't affect its body at all. The little Kylan yawned lazily, as if it was in a dream. It looked around and discovered Zi Yunxiang, then ran into her bosom. Zi Yunxiang subconsciously stretched out her hand and held it. The little Kylan immediately yawned and lay in her bosom. Zi Yunxiang was dumbfounded, and she couldn't understand what had just happened. Where did this mysterious little beast come from? How could it be so powerful that it could send a 2 crystals half-fairy realm expert flying with just a hoof? Where did this little beast come from? The armored youth was infuriated, and he shouted without even turning his head around. "Boss, you still haven't dealt with that trash? There's a troublesome little beast here, so hurry over and help me." Suddenly, a calm voice transmitted from behind him. "No problem. I've already brought him over for you." The armored youth was startled, and his expression changed drastically. He didn't even notice that someone was behind him. The armored youth rolled forward without giving it a second thought, and only after putting some distance between them did he look behind him. What he saw almost scared him out of his wits. He saw a handsome youth with a head full of strange long hair standing at the place where he had just been standing. He was carrying a person in each of his hands. Chapter 614. Zi Yunxiang's body trembled as she let go of the little Kylan. She covered her mouth and face as she murmured in a trembling voice. Her watery eyes were filled with surprise and disbelief. Ever since Inu had been captured by Lord Shining from the Phoenix Cabinet, he had disappeared from the continent. It was rumored that he had died in the Battle of the Fairy Realm. For 2 whole years, there had been no news of him. Now that he had suddenly appeared in front of her, Zi Yunxiang cried tears of joy. "Patter!" The little Kylan fell to the ground, crying out pitifully. It rubbed its butt with its hooves, then stood up with a pout. It then waved its hooves at Zi Yunxiang. The fall woke it up, and it jumped back onto Suyu's shoulder, still glaring at Zi Yunxiang angrily. "Ah, is this your spiritual pet? I'm sorry." Zi Yunxiang was shocked by the little beast's intelligence, and her face turned red. The little Kylan snorted and waved its hooves generously, as if to say that it was not a big deal and that it did not care. This action caused Zi Yunxiang to giggle. This little beast was exceptionally peculiar. While they were talking, the armored youth, who had not been subdued, turned around and took out a long sword. He pressed it against Zi Yunxiang's neck, trying to subdue her and take her as a hostage. Zi Yunxiang was shocked. She wanted to run away, but how could she outrun a 2 crystals half-fairy? "Did I say you could move?" A cold snort came from behind the armored youth. A golden light flashed past the 2 crystals half-fairy's arm, casually making a circle around it. Patter! The armored youth's arm fell to the ground. This sword had directly cut off his arm with sword energy. "Ah!" The armored youth let out a blood-curdling scream, like a pig being slaughtered. "Noisy! If you scream again, I will cut off your tongue." Suyu frowned. Suddenly, the armored youth's scream stopped. He clutched his arm, which was bleeding profusely. He was in so much pain that his face turned pale. "I will ask, and you will answer. What happened to the woman you chased 2 days ago? Was she injured?" Suyu had already heard from them that Xia Jingyu had successfully escaped. The 2 of them looked at each other, hesitating. Whoever answers later will die. Suyu's killing intent was extremely strong. After going through the training in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, Suyu's desire to kill had unknowingly increased. It was unknown whether it was due to the influence of evil energy or because he had killed too many people, but he gradually viewed human lives as worthless. Hearing this, the two armored youths trembled. "Wait, we'll speak." She escaped. Her injuries are little, but not serious. The two armored youths said in unison. Zi Yunxiang was stunned. "Suyu, are you asking about Lord Yu of the Empire of Darkness? How do you know about her? Where is she?" Suyu asked anxiously. Zi Yunxiang stared coldly at the two of them. "They're lying to you. Lord Yu's injuries were severe, and she was still unconscious. The undead Phoenix Master was still trying to think of a way to save her. She had originally followed us back to the Heavenly Law Alliance, but for some unknown reason, she changed her mind at the last minute and went to a dangerous region alone. When we found her, she was already on her last breath." The two armored young men's faces instantly turned pale when they heard this. Unconscious? Suyu's voice was so cold that even he felt a chill when he heard it. As his gaze swept past the two of them, Suyu's killing intent exploded. A formless white flame flashed past. The souls of the two burned, and they could fly. They did not even have the chance to cry out in pain. Thump! Tossing aside the two corpses, Suyu said anxiously, "Let's go. Bring me to her quickly." Xia Jingyu had returned to inform him. Even though she knew it was dangerous, she had rushed back to leave a message for Suyu. Suyu's heart was bleeding. He felt that he owed Xia Jingyu, and he would never be able to repay her in this lifetime. A woman's intuition told Zi Yunxiang that Suyu and Lord Yu had a relationship that surpassed friendship. This caused Zi Yunxiang to feel slightly uncomfortable. Her chest felt heavy. All right. Along the way, Gang Dalei recuperated and felt much better. Seeing Suyu frown, he comforted him. "Suyu, do not worry. The master of the Phoenix Cabinet is the continent's top alchemy master. She has a unique understanding of healing. Lord, you will be fine." Suyu's heart was filled with Xia Jingyu's safety. He nodded. "Yes, I hope so. Dalei, how is Ling Xiaotian now? I have been gone for 2 years. Without vital energy to sustain him." Suyu had another unresolved worry in his heart. Hearing this, Gang Dalei's expression turned serious. "Have we met before? How do you know my name? Also, what is your relationship with Ling Xiaotian? How did you know that Ling Xiaotian was with us? He was brought here by the Black Snow Devil King." Wait. Gang Dalei and Zi Yunxiang's bodies turned stiff at the same time, looking at Suyu in shock. After Suyu disappeared, the infamous Black Snow Devil King had appeared out of nowhere. After that, the Black Snow Devil King had entered the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion for over 2 years. Suyu had also disappeared, cultivating a mysterious ability. Could it be that the Black Snow Devil King was actually Suyu? Yes, it was me. Back then, Suyu's identity was wanted. To make things easier, I changed my appearance and roamed the world as the Black Snow Devil King. I did not tell you the truth. Please forgive me, Suyu said apologetically, especially Zi Yunxiang. From her expression, his disappearance had affected her greatly. Gang Dalei was dumbfounded. My brother Black Snow is the #1 genius of the North Continent. Inu? How unexpected. The people of the Jinlong continent would never have imagined that Suyu did not disappear. Instead, he roamed the world with the identity of the Black Snow Devil King. Zi Yunxiang's face was full of resentment. Back then, when she had found out that Suyu had died in the battle between the fairies, she had fainted on the spot. For the next few months, she had not been able to walk out of it. What made her even more resentful was that the Black Snow Devil King had personally gone to the Heavenly Law Alliance, but had not looked for her. Feeling the different emotions of the two, Suyu was speechless. He had been too helpless in the past. Now that his abilities had improved greatly, there were very few people in the Jinlong continent who could threaten him. There was no need to worry about implicating old friends. This meant that Suyu would no longer hide his identity. Wait, when a mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion ended, you did not come out. We all thought that you had. Gang Dalei said in surprise. Suyu calmly said, "It was just an accident. I stayed for half a day. It's nothing." Gang Dalei was skeptical. Take this opportunity to explain to me what happened in the Jinlong continent. What's going on with those two people just now? When did two unfamiliar crystals, half fairies, appear in the Jinlong continent? What is going on with the fall of the Jinlong continent? Hearing this, the joy of reuniting with Suyu disappeared in an instant. Instead, they furrowed their brows. Suyu, the Jinlong continent is finished. Gang Dalei hesitated for a long time, then said in a low voice. Zi Yunxiang's eyes were full of sorrow. In the 2.5 years that you were gone, many things happened in the Jinlong continent. The current Jinlong continent is no longer the same as before. You can carefully feel the air. The air? When Suyu had just returned to the Jinlong continent, he had been troubled by Xia Jingyu's comforting words. As such, he had not carefully felt the difference. Now that he had carefully felt it, he was slightly startled. What is going on? The spiritual energy in the air of the Jinlong continent seems to have become denser. Gang Dalei said in a deep voice, "It is not just denser. It is 10 times denser." Back then, my reaction was the same as yours. I did not notice the change in the spiritual energy because we were used to the dense spiritual energy in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion. Hence, when the spiritual energy of the Jinlong continent became so dense, I did not notice it. Zi Yunxiang nodded. Yes, it is precisely because of the 10 times denser spiritual energy that the geniuses of the Jinlong continent have the opportunity to cultivate like never before. I was able to become a heaven master in a short 2 years because of this. Everything began 2 years ago when the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds changed. The dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds changed? Suyu's heart skipped a beat. The most mysterious place in the Jinlong continent was probably the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds. Back then, a terrifying dragon tail had appeared from within the pool. The seal of the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds had been broken, and Shungu had been able to escape. That black pool of water was a mysterious place that Suyu still could not let go of. Not long after the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion opened, the seal of the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds was suddenly opened. At that time, Elder Geo and the rest were at the mysterious heavenly stage and could not return in time. The fighters of the Heavenly Law Alliance entered the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds to investigate the situation. However, the first batch of experts that entered the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds all died. Only the leader of the group, Fu Songshan, came out alive. He said that a large number of unknown experts appeared in the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds, and that there was no one in Sin City. Everyone disappeared without a trace. Then, they were attacked by a large number of unfamiliar half-immortals. They were almost completely annihilated. Fu Songshan managed to escape with his group and escape from the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds. Zi Yunxiang paused, and Gang Dalei continued. This matter is not over yet. After my master received news of the change in the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds, he immediately rushed back to seal it again. However, 3 fighters of the fairy realm suddenly appeared among them. All of them were grade 5 fairies. Master was outnumbered and eventually retreated in defeat. He only had time to snatch away some valuables, which included Ling's Shoutian and the dragon coffin. Then, he retreated with the many senior experts who encircled him, all the way to the mainland. Hearing this, Suyu felt slightly relieved. From then on, the otherworldly fighters continued to appear from the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds in large numbers. The martial artists of the Jinlong continent organized many counterattacks in an attempt to force them back. However, the number of their fairy realm fighters kept increasing. The last time the Jinlong continent's martial artists attacked, they already had more than 30 fairy realm fighters. The Jinlong continent's martial artists suffered heavy casualties. The Heavenly Law Alliance's Master Long Jueshin was severely injured during the battle and has been recuperating ever since. Countless fighters from all sides died. This was the most tragic defeat the Jinlong continent had ever suffered. It was also the last time we could organize our forces to fight against them. Half a year later, the Jinlong continent's calamity appeared. They gathered countless experts and finally set foot on the Jinlong continent. Under the leadership of a few Saint Masters, the otherworldly fighters marched straight in and swept across the northern continent. The Snow Listening Tower, the Phoenix Cabinet, and the 100 Territories Alliance were all conquered in one night. Then, it was the Eastern Continent, the Southern Continent, and the Western Continent. All the great factions were conquered in one night. Chapter 615. Hearing this, Suyu was shocked. In just 2.5 years, the Jinlong continent had undergone such a drastic change? The continent had been completely occupied by the other world. Does that mean that the northern continent's Empire of Darkness has also been occupied? Suyu was worried about his Inu area. Zi Yunxiang continued, nodding. Yes, it has been occupied. Other than a few vigilant people who managed to escape in advance, the majority of the people are still locked down. That change happened too quickly. In just one night, the entire continent was occupied. Did they do anything to the people in the occupied areas? Suyu's heart tightened. Zi Yunxiang's expression turned cold. Massacres did not happen. However, from the actions of those two people just now, it was clear that they treated the people of the Jinlong continent like livestock. They burned, killed, and looted. Even though the lives of the people in the occupied areas were not in great danger, they could not avoid humiliation. Who knows how many people were robbed and how many wives and daughters were raped by them? Suyu's eyes shot out shards of cold light. He did not know where those people had come from, but their talents and abilities were abnormally strong. They had an indescribable sense of superiority toward the people of the Jinlong continent. In the Jinlong continent, they could indulge in the darkness in their hearts and do evil things. Perhaps, as Zi Yunxiang had said, many people's families have been destroyed. Those who manage to escape either live in the wilderness, hide in the ocean, or are taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance. Other than that, any other place in the Jinlong continent has become a living hell. Zi Yunxiang clenched her fists. This disaster had come too suddenly, and the impact was too great. The Jinlong continent had really fallen. The battleships of the Heavenly Law Alliance are now hiding everywhere. The 5 of us are one of the small patrolling teams. The battleships are now resting, and the surroundings need to be guarded. We did not expect to meet 2 half-fairies not long after we set off. We must quickly go back and inform them. This is not a place to stay for long, Gang Daliai said. Suyu nodded, his gaze moving between Zi Yunxiang and Gang Daliai. He then said profoundly, the geniuses taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance should not be just the 2 of you, right? What he meant was why the 2 of them were sent to patrol. If it had been someone else patrolling, Suyu would not have been surprised. But who were these 2 people? One was one of the 3 fairies of the Jinlong continent, the last disciple of Elder Jiao. The other was the daughter of one of the Heavenly Law Alliance's elders, Zi Donglai. Their statuses were much higher than those of ordinary geniuses. There was no reason for them to carry out such a dangerous mission without any protection. Among the clues, Suyu found something unusual. Hearing this, both of their faces turned ugly. Gang Daliai laughed bitterly. Master and I were both taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance. How can we not lower our heads when we are living under the roof? Wait, it's fine that Gang Daliai was taken in, but what kind of person is Elder Jiao? 4 days ago, my master's tribulation came as scheduled. Even though he brought back the Thunder Herb, for some reason, the tribulation lightning this time was much scarier than expected. My master was injured by the tribulation lightning, and we don't even know if he's dead or alive. He's also being taken care of by the undead Phoenix Master. What's worse is that he failed the tribulation this time. The second tribulation lightning will descend soon. My unconscious master will face the second tribulation lightning. What do you think will happen to him? Apart from turning into ashes, Elder Jiao's fate was as clear as day. Since Elder Jiao was about to die, it was understandable that his disciple would receive such treatment. However, the person who had arranged for this mission was too cruel. Elder Jiao was still alive, yet he had tortured his disciple like this. Was Elder Geo going to die with regrets? What about you? Was Housemaster Z also injured? Suyu asked. Zi Yunxiang sighed softly. No. How could my father be compared to Elder Geo? It's just that there was a change in the Heavenly Law Alliance. My father was ostracized and stripped of his position as an elder. Fu Sangshan's grandson was recently taken in by the Heavenly Law Alliance. He took a fancy to me and wanted to take me as his concubine. I refused, so I was sent out to carry out a dangerous mission. Such a thing could happen. Who is Fu Sangshan? So you had heard of this person's name from their conversation. The first person to enter the dragon abyss of the 9 underworlds to investigate the situation was Fu Sangshan. You should have heard of his name, Zi Yunxiang said. The Northern Pole Sword Saint, Zhao Wuji, the Undead Phoenix Master, Qiuning Shui, and the Snow-Gazing Taoist, Fu Sangshan. The 3 of them are elders of the Heavenly Law Alliance from the Northern Continent. Hearing this, Suyu suddenly understood. He had heard of these 3 people's names in the past. The Northern Pole Sword Saint came from the 100 Territories Alliance. The Undead Phoenix Master, Qiuning Shui, came from the Phoenix Cabinet, and the Snow-Gazing Taoist, Fu Sangshan, came from the Snow Listening Tower. In fact, the current Snow Listening Tower's master had been killed by Suyu. The Snow Listening Tower really has a bunch of scoundrels, using such a method to force a marriage. Humph! Suyu snorted disdainfully. Fu Sangshan's cultivation has improved greatly, and he is now a 3 crystals peak half-fairy. He can go through his tribulation at any time, and his power has already surpassed Alliance Master Long's. Moreover, Alliance Master Long was severely injured in the battle at the Dragon Abyss of the 9 underworlds, and he relied on the Undead Phoenix Master to save his life. Thus, his power has increased day by day. My father was removed from his position as an elder in order to make room for Fu Sangshan's trusted aide. This meant that there was a possibility that the Heavenly Law Alliance would change hands. He hadn't returned for 2.5 years, yet the situation had already become so complicated. Don't worry, I understand, and I won't cause any trouble, Suyu said frankly. He had come to the Heavenly Law Alliance for Xia Jingyu and Ling Xiaotian, and if it wasn't necessary, he naturally wouldn't cause any trouble. The group of people chatted as they quickly flew toward the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship. However, they didn't know that, at the place where the 2 armored youths had fallen, there was a middle-aged man with a cold face. His gaze was like a torch as he stared coldly at the direction in which Su Yu and the others had left. Humph! I have finally found you. As he spoke, the spiritual pressure of a fairy realm expert slowly spread out. In the Heavenly Law Alliance, when Suyu saw the Heavenly Law Alliance's enormous warship once again, he wasn't surprised anymore. After all, after witnessing the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion's majestic aura, the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship was somewhat lacking. Moreover, with Suyu's current eyesight, he could roughly determine that the Heavenly Law Alliance's warship was a semi-manufactured spiritual artifact. When they reached the bottom of the warship, a guiding light beam descended, enveloped the 3 of them, and transported them into the warship. When they had just landed, Suyu felt a piercingly cold and solemn aura. When he opened his eyes, he saw that there were 2 rows of murderous guards around them, who were vigilantly staring at them. After ascertaining that it was a patrol team, they put away their weapons and continued to surround the transportation portal. This was to prevent enemies from using the transportation portal to enter the warship. Please inform Alliance Master Long that the 10th Scouting Team has returned, and they have an important matter to report. Gang Dalei instructed one of the guards, then said, Black Snow, oh, Suyu, I will bring you to see the Undead Phoenix Master. She is currently looking after my teacher and Lord Yu. Suyu had come for this, so he immediately nodded. Zi Yunxiang then said, Then you can go first. I will go to see my father. If he knows that you are still alive, he will surely be very happy. We will meet again later, Suyu said, then quickly walked toward the Undead Phoenix Master's place with Gang Dalei. Under Gang Dalei's guidance, they went straight to the warship's highest level. This was the place where many elders lived, and it was heavily guarded. Gang Dalei showed his identity 3 times, and they passed through 3 checkpoints before they reached the deepest part of the warship. The Heavenly Law Alliance often encounters otherworldly strong martial artists, and there are often casualties. Hence, the undead Phoenix Master, who is skilled in healing elixirs, is very important. She is one of the most important targets of protection, and the guards around her are comparable to Alliance Master Longs. No one would dare to disturb her, Gang Dalei explained as he walked. Suddenly, he raised his brows. What are you doing here? After they turned a corner, they discovered that a youth in a luxurious robe was peeking inside the undead Phoenix Master's room through a crack in the door. Hearing Gang Dalei scolding, he did not show any fear. Instead, he frowned and turned his head. There is no place in the Heavenly Law Alliance that I cannot go. I'm asking you, why are you sneaking around here? Gang Dalei was clearly disgusted by this person. Who asked you to be so nosy? That old man is about to die, yet he still dares to be so arrogant. You are lucky to be able to return alive this time. The youth in the luxurious robe grew impatient and stopped peeking. He let out a cold grunt and turned to leave with his hands clasped behind his back. He swaggered around, not paying any attention to the guards. Sui was confused. Brother Dalei, who is this person? He seems to have an unusual identity. Gang Dalei let out a disdainful laugh. What identity? He is merely a spoiled brat who relies on his grandfather. That's right, Missy mentioned him just now. It was him. Fu Songshan's grandson had failed to force Yunxiang to marry him, and was now secretly making things difficult for her. Then what is he peeking at here for? Sui was disgusted. He walked to the front of the undead Phoenix Master's room and looked into the room from his previous angle. His expression turned cold. From his current angle, he could see the bed in the middle of the room. He could also see the unconscious Xia Jingyu on the bed. Gang Dalei walked over and took a look. He instantly understood what the youth had been looking at. That bastard. He actually dared to lay his hands on an unconscious woman. Gang Dalei was furious. Shameless rat. If my master were awake, would I still need to endure this? What is his name? Sui retracted his cold gaze, but his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Gang Dalei froze, hesitating. Fu Hongxue. Brother Su, do not do anything foolish. The Heavenly Law Alliance is the only safe haven on the continent. If you wish to continue staying here, you can only keep the peace. Do not cause trouble, especially that brat just now. He is a vicious and vengeful person. Sui calmly nodded. Yes, I understand. Gang Dalei did not notice the flash of murderous intent in Suiyu's eyes. Pushing open the door, Suiyu saw Xia Jingyu immediately. Her beautiful face was like the most beautiful scenery in the world, even when she was unconscious. At this moment, she was quietly lying on the bed, her brows furrowed. It was as if she was in deep sleep, her heart filled with worry. Jingyu, I am back. Suiyu held her fingers. Their warmth passed through their fingertips and reached deep into their souls. Chapter 6:16. Their hearts had always been connected. Holding Xia Jingyu's hand, Suiyu examined her injuries. The injuries to her bones and internal organs were gradually recovering, probably thanks to Undead Phoenix Master. Apart from that, Suiyu did not find any other injuries. So why was Xia Jingyu still in a deep sleep? Who are you? The door was pushed open, and a gentle, middle-aged woman entered with a frown. Gang Dalei hurried over from the side hall and said hurriedly, Elder, it is Black Snow Devil King. He is Black Snow Devil King, and also Suiyu. Black Snow Devil King? You are Black Snow Devil King? Undead Phoenix Master was shocked. The Black Snow Devil King who had given Sienner a high-grade divine artifact. The one who had been blinded by the heavenly wrath? Wait, wasn't Suiyu the traitor who was once wanted by the Empire Darkness? He was actually Black Snow Devil King. After a while, Undead Phoenix Master finally accepted the truth. You hid it from me so well. So you're Sienner's fiancé. No wonder you are so protective of her. It is a pity that Sienner. Undead Phoenix Master was in a daze. Knowing that Sienner had not returned, she was in a bad mood. Suiyu said, Regarding Sienner, I will report to you later. May I ask, where did you go just now? Undead Phoenix Master said blankly. Fu Shan asked me to go over to discuss the creation of healing elixirs. But when I went, he was in seclusion, so I rushed back. Hearing this, Gang Dalei and Su Yu's expressions turned cold. Elder, do you know what Brother Su Yu and I saw when we arrived? Gang Dalei said angrily, telling her everything he had seen. Hearing this, Undead Phoenix Master's face turned cold, and her whole body trembled with anger. That bastard! How dare he falsely pass on Fu Shan's words and transfer me away, plotting against Lord EU. Just thinking about it made Undead Phoenix Master tremble with anger. If not for Su Yu and Gang Dalei's timely arrival, he might have succeeded and done something irreparable to the unconscious Xia Jingyu. It was laughable. Xia Jingyu had used her life to protect her chastity. She had not fallen into the hands of the cruel foreign clans, but she had almost been sullied by her own people. Such a ridiculous thing had actually happened in the Heavenly Law Alliance. Fu Shan, what a grandson you are. I'll report this to Alliance leader long later. Let's see how you're going to face him then. Undead Phoenix Master was furious. Su Yu's expression was calm. Thank you, Elder, but you need not interfere in this matter. The Heavenly Dao Union situation is very complicated. Senior, you just have to protect yourself. I will settle the matter between me and Jingyu. Humph. As an elder of the Heavenly Law Alliance, how can I turn a blind eye to it? Don't worry. Even if we can't deal with that brat, it'll be good to embarrass Fu Shan so that he can discipline his grandson. The Undead Phoenix Master had a straightforward personality and was quite similar to the Phoenix Cabinet's master. Su Yu stopped trying to stop her and turned his attention to Xia Jingyu. After chatting for a while, the Undead Phoenix Master said, her injuries have actually recovered. However, for some reason, her consciousness still hasn't woken up. But don't worry, her consciousness is gradually becoming active, and she will wake up soon. You don't have to worry too much. Hearing this, Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief. Compared to her, Senior Geo is the real trouble. Undead Phoenix Master came to the side hall. Su Yu followed her and saw Elder Geo lying on the bed. His face had turned yellow, and he looked like a withered tree leaf. The once playful Elder Geo was now just a weak old man who didn't have long to live. Gang Dalei sat quietly in front of the bed. Even though he was trying his best to stay strong, he could still feel his sorrow. It was Elder Geo who didn't mind his strangeness and had brought him up. To him, Elder Geo was like a teacher and a father. Su Yu raised his brows as he looked at Elder Geo. He could feel that there were still remnants of disastrous thunder in his body. His physical body had been destroyed to the extreme, and his consciousness had fallen into eternal torment due to the pain of his physical body. This was the reason why he had fallen into a coma. Elder, are there no suitable elixirs for him? Su Yu asked. Master Undead Phoenix sighed. There are plenty of elixirs. At the end of the day, he's just physically injured. There are plenty of elixirs that can heal him. However, the problem is that the remaining tribulation lightning in his body is very troublesome. Any external objects that enter his body will be destroyed by the tribulation lightning first, and the elixirs won't be able to take effect. She then added, we have to get rid of the disastrous thunder first before we can heal him. However, the disastrous thunder is so terrifying that even a fairy like him can't withstand it, let alone others. If I hadn't insisted on bringing Senior Joe back, I'm afraid he would have been rejected outside the door. No one can handle the disastrous thunder in his body. Is that so? What Undead Phoenix Master wanted to say was that even if Elder Geo woke up, the second wave of the heavenly tribulation was coming. Even at his peak, Elder Geo couldn't withstand the disastrous thunder, let alone with his injured body. Slap! Gang Dalei suddenly slapped himself in the face. 2 tears rolled down from his tiger-like eyes. I am useless. I followed my teacher's instructions and didn't find the lightning-based magical treasure. Otherwise, my teacher wouldn't have been injured by the disastrous thunder. Su Yu felt uneasy. The lightning-based magical treasure had been obtained by Su Yu in advance. However, even without Su Yu, Gang Dalei would have been stopped by Yang Yi Dao and wouldn't have been able to obtain it in the end. Why don't you let me try? Suyu suddenly said. Undead Phoenix Master asked curiously, You? What method do you have? Gang Dalei wiped away his tears. Brother Su, if you can save this old thing, I, Gang Dalei, will do anything for you. Suyu waved his hand. Don't say that. Only Undead Phoenix Master can save him. I'm just trying to find a way to get rid of the disastrous thunder in his body. Can you really do it? Undead Phoenix Master heard Suyu's confident tone and was shocked. Suyu smiled. If there are no accidents, there should be an 80% chance of success. However, due to some reasons, I can't be disturbed during this process. I hope you can help me guard the door temporarily and don't let anyone in. The Undead Phoenix Master and Gang Dalei understood that Suyu was preparing to use some underhanded methods to send them away. All right, I'll leave the old man to you. I'll guard the door for you. Without another word, Gang Dalei's footsteps became more energetic. The excitement in his heart could be vaguely seen. Undead Phoenix Master rolled her eyes. I haven't seen you for 2 years, and you've become so successful. You even want to hide it from me. However, she still left the room immediately. Everyone had their own secrets and didn't want outsiders to know about them. Suyu's actions were normal, and it had nothing to do with trust. Suyu touched his nose. He wouldn't mind them watching him use normal tricks, but there were some things that couldn't be exposed to the public. Suyu took out a palm-sized jade box with a flip of his palm, and a black hair that looked like a steel needle was lying quietly in it. The devil's hair can attract the disastrous thunder, but the demonic energy in it is very ferocious. Elder Gio is at his weakest right now. If the demonic energy enters his body, it will make things worse. Shaking his head, Suyu put it away. Then, he took out a 5-colored jade seal. It was the 5-elemental strong thunder seal. Looking at the evil energy seal, Suyu shook his head. It won't work. It's temporarily sealed, so it can't absorb the disastrous thunder. Finally, Suyu took out a 5-colored, beautiful, soft armor from the 9-jade spiritual pearl. I can only try using this. This was the Thunder Herb armor that Wu Aoyue had spent a lot of effort to weave. Suyu had thought that it wouldn't be put to use so soon. He didn't expect to use it now. Suyu put the armor on Elder Gio's chest. The 5-colored light of the Thunder Herb passed through Elder Gio's skin and entered his flesh. Every corner of his body was covered in the light. Wherever the 5-colored light shone, the disastrous thunder seemed to have met its natural enemy. It was sucked away and absorbed into the Thunder Herb armor. Elder Gio's complexion gradually improved, and his pain lessened. After half a cup of tea's time, Suyu put away the Thunder Herb. He pinched it with his fingers, and a crackling sound came from the Thunder Herb. Suyu's fingers became numb, and he quickly moved it away. After the Thunder Herb absorbs the disastrous thunder, it seems like it can turn it into a part of itself. It can be used for defense. Suyu was surprised to find that the 80-year-old Thunder Herb had another function. Not only could it absorb the disastrous thunder, but it could also turn it into a part of its defense. Suyu hadn't seen this feature during the exchange festival. The fact that Elder Gio was injured to this extent showed how powerful the disastrous thunder was. Now that he had turned it into the Thunder Herb armor, it would be very useful. Suyu was very satisfied with such an unexpected gain. Elder Gio had done him a favor, and he wouldn't ask for anything in return to expel the thunderbolts. It was purely an accident that he had obtained such a benefit. Outside the door, Gang Dalei was pacing back and forth with his hands clasped behind his back. It was as if he had lost his soul. Elder, how much of the disastrous thunder do you think you can expel from my master's body? Gang Dalei scratched his cheeks. Seeing his anxious expression, the Undead Phoenix Master was both annoyed and amused. You ask me? Who should I ask? Gang Dalei was angry, but the anxiety in his eyes did not diminish. However, if he can expel 50% of the thunderbolts, I can ask Alliance Master Long to get the Void World Senior to help. Maybe the Void World Senior's corpse can expel the other 50%. The Undead Phoenix Master said, I'm afraid that Suyu has underestimated the thunderbolts. With his abilities, it would be difficult for him to expel 10%. Forget it. If he can expel 30% of the thunderbolts, I will go all out and use the calamity-passing elixir that I have kept for many years to expel 20% of the thunderbolts. Finally, I will ask Alliance Master Long for help." The undead Phoenix Master clenched her teeth. She had actually given up on passing her own ordeal. 30%. Suyu only needed to expel 30% of the thunderbolts. Creak. When the door opened, Suyu looked relaxed. He did not look tired at all. Gang Dailyi's heart sank. Did he fail? "Brother Su, did you manage to expel more than 50% of the thunderbolts?" Gang Dailyi asked anxiously. Suyu was stunned. 50%? If he wanted to expel it, he must have done it completely. What does 50% mean? Seeing that Suyu was in a daze, Gang Dailyi's heart sank. "So, less than 40%? What are you trying to say?" Suyu was confused. He looked at Gang Dailyi and Xiaofeng. Seeing his confused look, the undead Phoenix Master sighed in her heart. She asked, "Suyu, just tell me directly. How much of the thunderbolts in Elder Jio's body did you expel? If you can expel more than 30% of them, I will have a way to expel the rest of Elder Jio's disastrous thunder. If not," Suyu finally understood. He asked in surprise, "Did I not make myself clear before I expelled them? Of course, I meant all of them. What do you mean by a few percent?" All of a sudden, the undead Phoenix Master and Gang Dailyi looked as if they had seen a ghost. All of them expelled. Only half of the Void World Senior's body could be eliminated. How could Suyu eliminate them all by himself? Let me take a look. The undead Phoenix Master came back to her senses and hurried into the room. Gang Dailyi's heart was pounding as he followed her in. Before he reached Elder Jio's bed, he heard the undead Phoenix Master exclaim, "My God, where is the disastrous thunder? Suyu, where did the disastrous thunder go? Have you eaten it?" Suyu could not help but roll his eyes at her. "You are the disastrous thunder. There is no time to lose. Hurry up and let Elder Jio consume the elixir. His second heavenly tribulation is coming soon. Before that, he should nourish his body as much as possible," Suyu said. Suyu said. However, his last sentence stunned Gang Dailyi and the undead Phoenix Master. "Although I can help him get through the heavenly tribulation, if his body is too weak and he is killed by the disastrous thunder, you will have to blame me for that." The two of them looked at Suyu as if they were looking at a monster, and they stared at him without blinking. "Brother Su, what did you say just now?" Gang Dailyi could not believe his ears. A half-fairy had said that he would help a fairy realm get through the heavenly tribulation. If Suyu had said those words earlier, Gang Dailyi might have laughed out loud. What a joke. But now, he had to take it seriously. Judging from the way he had expelled the disastrous thunder, Suyu might really have a trump card to deal with the terrifying heavenly tribulation. Suyu blinked his eyes. Helping him get through the heavenly tribulation? After all, I owe Elder Jio a favor. As long as it is within my power, I should help him. As long as it is within my power. Suyu's casual words showed his confidence and how easy it would be for him to capture the target. "Lad, if you can really help me get through the heavenly tribulation, I will betroth Sienna to you immediately." The undead Phoenix Master gasped. She realized that she could no longer see through the young man from the past. Suyu was speechless. Sienna, it was his fiancée. How could she betroth Sienna to him? "Elder, if you need any help with your breakthrough, just tell me," Suyu said. The undead Phoenix Master was satisfied. She immediately took out a healing elixir and stuffed it into Elder Jio's mouth. Elder Jio's face was turning yellow at a visible speed. He was recovering rapidly. "All right, I can finally start treating his injuries. Within 3 days, his injuries will more or less recover." The undead Phoenix Master clapped her hands and heaved a sigh of relief. Gang Dailyi was pleasantly surprised. He rushed over and gave Suyu a bear hug. "Brother Su, thank you, thank you. In the future, I will be your slave or your horse. You only need to say the word." Suyu smiled. Gang Dailyi's character was indeed admirable. Creak. At that moment, the door was pushed open. A guard came in to report, "Captain Gang, please head to the main hall with this young man to report your situation." The undead Phoenix Master's expression changed. "That's great. I also want to know how Food Sanshan is going to be humiliated." However, Suyu extended his hand to stop her. He said thoughtfully, "Elder, please do one more thing for me." Chapter 617. Over the years, whenever the Heavenly Law Union descended upon the mortal world, chaos would ensue. He wanted to protect the young experts of the human race and extend the vitality of the human race's future generations. He wanted to prevent the death of outstanding geniuses in this chaotic world, which would cause the loss of experts of the human race. The Heavenly Law Alliance upholds justice in the world and is the final fortress of the human race. Now that the alien races were invading and the continent was in chaos, only the Heavenly Law Alliance adhered to tradition and took in the young experts from all over the continent to avoid the chaos. A selfless act was admirable. The undead Phoenix Master, Zidonglai, Lin Yunhe, and the others were willing to work for the Heavenly Law Alliance after retiring. To a large extent, it was because of the Heavenly Law Alliance's selflessness. Suyu also deeply respected the Heavenly Law Alliance. Even though he had a brief conflict with the Heavenly Law Alliance Master, it did not affect his respect for the Heavenly Law Alliance. In this world, there were very few people who did not care about fame or profit, but only thought about the future of the continent. As strong as the Empire of Darkness was, and as weak as a single person who had sacrificed himself for the sake of the continent. Even after tens of thousands of years, their original intentions had not changed. Nothing could be more righteous than this. Brother Su, you don't need to be nervous. We are just reporting the situation of your predicament. You could just speak frankly. The Heavenly Law Alliance's elders are all kind, so they won't make things difficult for you. Seeing Suyu's solemn expression, Gang Dalei misunderstood that Suyu was nervous. Suyu replied with a smile. He had once fought against 3 fairies alone, yet he had not been nervous. So, now that he was facing a group of half-fairies, why would he be nervous? As they chatted, they arrived at the hall. The hall was located in the Heavenly Law Union's central region. It was the core of the Heavenly Law Union. The decorations were simple and not extravagant at all. It complemented the traditions of the Heavenly Law Alliance. At this moment, there were several elders in the hall. Master Blacksmith Lin Yunhe was looking at them with a smile. Beside him, Zidonglai, who had been stripped of his position as an elder and had been reduced to an ordinary member, stood among the group of elders. He looked at Suyu's figure with surprise and delight. However, he felt slightly awkward standing among the group of elders. Beside him was Zi Yunxiang, who had come to report on her mission. A pair of clear eyes were fixed on the silver-haired figure. No matter how many times she looked at him, that figure was still as dazzling and resplendent as his silver hair. Other than that, there were also a few elders whom he did not recognize. They came from the eastern, southern, and western continents. The elders of each continent kept a certain distance from each other. Lin Yunhe and Zidonglai of the northern continent seemed especially weak and isolated. The undead Phoenix Master, snow-gazing Taoist, and the North Pole Sword Sage were not present. Inyu, I should call you Suyu. Long time no see. Lin Yunhe waved his hand at him, his face filled with a gratified smile. Not only did you not die, but you also had other fortuitous encounters. I heard that you killed 2 crystals half-fairies by yourself. It's really unbelievable. Lin Yunhe had a deep impression of Suyu. He knew that Suyu had great talent in crafting weapons. However, it was a pity that Suyu had focused on the martial path and rejected Lin Yunhe's offer to nurture him. Thank you for your concern, Master Lin. I just managed to escape from a great calamity, and I only managed to obtain a fortuitous encounter by luck. As for those 2 crystals half-fairy realm experts, I had to pay a great price to kill them, so they aren't worth mentioning at all, Suyu said modestly. After hearing what was said, Zi Yunxiang tilted her head and looked at Suyu with a smile that was not a smile. This guy still liked to hide his abilities. She clearly remembered that Suyu had easily subdued 2 powerful 2 crystals half-fairy realm experts. Then, he had used some kind of strange technique to silently kill them. Even now, when he thought about it, he still felt horrified. Gang Dalei grinned. Couldn't this guy be a little more honest? Suyu. Zidonglai's face was filled with gratification as he called out to Suyu. In front of everyone's eyes, he bowed and said, "I still haven't thanked you for saving my life. Also, I am indebted to you for taking care of my daughter when I was in trouble." Suyu extended his hand and helped Zidonglai up. He then smiled and said, "Housemaster Z, you don't have to be so polite. I am indebted to you for thinking highly of me in the past, so I should be the one thanking you." Zidonglai was indebted to Suyu, and he had wanted to pass on his legacy to him. However, he had been schemed against by Han Jianglin, and his Z mansion had fallen into Han Jianglin's hands. In fact, he had even planned to betroth Zi Yunxiang to Suyu. Now that they had met again, the past was like smoke, and 3 years had passed in the blink of an eye. Back then, I knew that you were an extraordinary person and that you were definitely a dragon among men. Now, your cultivation is probably on par with the older generation, right? Zidonglai could faintly feel the pressure emanating from Suyu, and his heart was filled with regret. If he had been more decisive in the past, Xiang would have had a good husband. Moreover, he glanced at Zi Yunxiang out of the corner of his eye. How could such a gaze escape her father's notice? "Oh, you are Suyu, the #1 genius of the northern continent. I have heard of your name before." A kind old man from the southern continent wore a surprised expression. "I had thought that you had already died. I never expected that you would cultivate to such a level. It is truly surprising." So you did not know this person, but he did not act impolitely. He cupped his fists and said, "Elder, you are flattering me. Old Shun, you are indeed flattering me. The northern continent is the weakest among the 5 great continents. The so-called #1 genius is nothing more than this. There is a great disparity between him and the 4 great ancient clans and the 7 lords of darkness. Moreover, our Long Wuxin cannot be mentioned in the same breath." His reputation back then was somewhat exaggerated. A red-faced old man from the western continent stroked his beard as he spoke. Hearing this, Suyu was not angered. He smiled and bowed. "Elder, you are right. Even though you are young, you are quite shrewd. You did not get angry. Not bad." It was unknown whether the red-faced old man was praising or criticizing him. The white-faced old Shun tried to smooth things over for Suyu. "Old Zhang, your words are a bit too much. The northern continent lacks natural resources, and it is really unfair to compare it to the other 4 continents. Since he was able to become the #1 genius of the northern continent, his potential is naturally not low. I'm just speaking the truth, and I do not have any ill intentions." The red-faced old Zhang spoke calmly. "Black Snow Devil King, who appeared out of nowhere, chased us for 1,000,000 miles and overturned the northern continent's alliance. TSK. Even among the Heavenly Law Alliance's elders, he was an outstanding youth who received much attention. At that time, many of the old men felt that it would be more appropriate to call him the #1 genius of the northern continent." As he spoke, he looked at Suyu with a faint smile. "I am a straightforward person, and I do not have any ill intentions. If you listen to me, it will be a punishment for you. But if you don't, then just pretend that I never said anything." Old Chen opened his mouth, but he was unable to retort. Anyone could see that Old Zhang was trying to belittle Suyu, but he was using his status as an elder to lecture him. This was why no one could find an excuse to get angry at him. Moreover, the Black Snow Devil King's reputation had shaken the whole continent, and Suyu's title of the northern continent's #1 genius was indeed quite embarrassing. Suyu's expression was calm. "I understand. Many thanks for your teachings, Elder." He was not angry at all, and he just stood among the crowd expressionlessly. "It's good that you understand. Although you are far from being on par with the Black Snow Devil King, if you properly encourage yourself, you might be able to surpass him one day. I only spoke because I saw that you have great potential. Now, I will just say this much, so you better behave yourself." Old Zhang flicked his sleeves, as if he was a great expert. Suyu agreed, but did not refute him. After all, he had seen many things, and he was too lazy to deal with such tricks. "Elder Zhang, even if Suyu doesn't bother with you, I won't be so good-tempered." Gang Dalei was infuriated when he saw that Suyu was like a taciturn gourd. Old Zhang said calmly, "Elder Jiu's brilliant disciple is so impudent." Gang Daily Eye laughed coldly. Come on, why are you pretending to be a great expert? We all know why you are targeting Suyu. Not only did you steal Housemaster Z's position, but you are also targeting Housemaster Z and trying to drive him away. You know that Suyu and Housemaster Z have a good relationship, so you can't help but find fault with him? You are so sanctimonious. If my master was here, would he still tolerate you? Old Zhang frowned slightly. You're going too far. There are many elders here, so you should watch your words. Otherwise, I don't mind teaching you how to conduct yourself on behalf of Elder Gio. How arrogant. He actually dared to teach Elder Gio's disciple how to conduct himself. If Elder Gio was safe and sound, no one would dare to say anything. But now, not only was he unconscious, but he was also about to die. What was there to be afraid of? Humph. You can be proud of yourself. Gang Daily Eye snorted and said, Also, I don't mind teaching Senior Zhang how to conduct himself. I will teach you not to look down on others. Gang Daily Eye laughed mockingly. Do you know who is the Black Snow Devil King that you said Suyu is far inferior to? Old Zhang replied calmly. Does it have anything to do with me? Humph. Of course it has something to do with you. This is because the Black Snow Devil King is Suyu, who was belittled by you. Suyu is the Black Snow Devil King, and the Black Snow Devil King is Suyu. He has changed his appearance and assumed the identity of the Black Snow Devil King. So the two of them are the same person. What a joke. You look down on others and think that you are a great expert, but you don't know that the person standing in front of you is the Black Snow Devil King himself. What? His words shocked everyone present. How is this possible? The Black Snow Devil King is actually Suyu. Speaking of which, the Black Snow Devil King suddenly appeared in the northern continent after Suyu disappeared. Could it be? For a moment, everyone was discussing the matter, and the quiet hall became extremely lively. Zi Yunxiang and Lin Yunhe looked at old Zhang, who had a stiff expression on his face. They smiled but did not speak. They had naturally heard the truth from Zi Yunxiang. This old man likes to put on an act in front of others, but now he has kicked an iron plate and embarrassed himself. Lin Yunhe chuckled. He felt that it was unfair for his good friend, Zi Donglai. Zi Donglai smiled calmly. Zi Yunxiang, who was at the side, also felt proud of herself when she saw the elder's shock. Regardless of whether it was Suyu, Inyu, or the Black Snow Devil King, all of his identities were dazzling. Old Zhang's expression stiffened, and he felt a little embarrassed. He then said in a low voice, Suyu, since you are the Black Snow Devil King, why did you lie to us? What he was most angry about was that Suyu had not said anything and had not revealed his identity, which had put him in an awkward position. Suyu raised his head and calmly said, I didn't lie to you. I just felt that there was no need to mention it. Since Elder Zhang likes to teach people a lesson, it's fine as long as you are happy. Why expose me? Chapter 618. Old Zhang's face turned even redder from anger. However, he had no excuse to reprimand Suyu. Suyu had not been disrespectful at all, so how could he reprimand him? He could only swallow this grievance into his stomach. All of you, all right, I'll remember this. Old Zhang waved his sleeves and left in a sorry state. Gang Daily Eye did not let him off. Hee, Elder Zhang, you're so old, yet you're still so shrewd? You can't even handle such a small grievance? Old Zhang's face turned red with hatred. The crowd was in an uproar. 2 rows of guards entered the hall and stood on both sides, respectfully welcoming the arrival of an important person. The guards of honor were neat and mighty, with an extraordinary aura. The only person who could enjoy such treatment was the Heavenly Law Alliance's master, Long Jueshin. A middle-aged man with an imposing appearance stepped into the passageway to welcome them respectfully. His footsteps were like the wind, and his aura was extraordinary. He gave off a faint pressure. The elders on both sides were filled with respect. Compared to the first time they had met, Long Jueshin's aura was slightly unstable, which was a sign that he was injured. At the same time, he looked haggard and dispirited, as if he was not in good spirits. In just 3 years, he seemed to have aged 10 years. Everyone, let's get down to business, Long Jueshin said with a bleak expression. The elders stood on both sides and waited quietly. Daily Eye, Yunxiang, tell me about your encounters with the enemies, Long Jueshin said slowly as he looked at Su Yu. Gang Daley's expression became serious as he described the encounters with the two crystals half-fairies. After listening to him, Long Jueshin asked in a deep voice, "Everyone, what do you think?" It was obvious that his tone was very heavy. Alliance Master, the area that the otherworldly invaders are patrolling has expanded again. A month ago, they had not even patrolled this area. Old Chin said with a serious expression. I agree. They are starting to expand their territory from the big factions to the surrounding small factions, another elder said worriedly. In the past 2 years, they have only occupied the major factions. They have not set foot in the surrounding small factions or the barren lands. This is because the major factions like the Phoenix Cabinet are still resisting. Now, it seems that they have already gained a firm foothold and have completely suppressed the major factions. They have started to occupy every corner of the Jinlong continent. For the past 2 years, the Heavenly Law Alliance's warships have been wandering around desolate lands. Now that the Otherworld invaders had completely occupied the area, their range of activity was gradually shrinking. We can hide for now, but we can't hide forever. Old Chin added, however, Senior Geo is heavily injured, and we don't have the strength to launch a counterattack by relying on the First World Senior. The situation was getting grim. The crowd was silent. The days from now on would only get more and more difficult. We'll talk about this later. We can't stay here for long. Let's leave this place as soon as possible. Long Jueshin took out a red ball from his bosom. It was about the size of a head, and it shone brilliantly like a crystal. The heart of the Heavenly Law is the core magical treasure that controls the battleship. It has always been controlled by the Alliance Master, Gang Daley explained to Su Yu in a low voice. Su Yu observed silently. After imbuing it with spiritual energy, the heart of the Heavenly Law emitted formless waves and activated some of the functions of the battleship. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the battleship trembled, it started moving slowly and flew away. Only then did the crowd relax slightly. Now, let's discuss another matter. Long Jueshin's sharp gaze locked on Su Yu. You saved the 2 of them, and in the process, you killed two crystals half-fairies. Is this true? Su Yu nodded calmly. Yes, it was due to luck. Long Jueshin shook his head slightly. A 2 crystals half-fairy killing 2 people at the same level. No matter how you look at it, it can't be explained by luck. As a 3 crystals half-fairy, Long Jueshin could naturally see through Su Yu's cultivation. Hearing this, the elders were all startled. What? This lad is also a 2 crystals half-fairy? Old Chin was also startled. He couldn't see through Su Yu's cultivation, so he assumed that Su Yu had used some kind of concealment method. He was more inclined to believe that Su Yu had used some kind of technique or treasure to instantly kill 2 people at the same level. When he heard that Su Yu was actually a 2 crystals half-fairy, he was extremely shocked. Another top-notch genius like Gang Daley. Many elders exclaimed inwardly. Every generation has its own geniuses. We are all getting old. One of the elders sighed. They had only managed to become 2 crystals half-fairies in 100 years, yet this group of talented youths had easily reached their level. It's just that I had a fortuitous encounter in the mysterious, heavenly, divine pavilion. It's not a big deal. It wasn't that Su Yu was being modest, but that the Jinlong continent's environment couldn't compare to the mysterious, heavenly, divine pavilion. Long Jueshin's gaze became slightly sad. He then asked, Su Yu, are you willing to stay in the Heavenly Law Alliance? Hearing this, Gang Daley was overjoyed, and he secretly signaled Su Yu with his eyes. The Jinlong continent was in a state of turmoil. Now that otherworldly invaders had appeared even in a remote place, there was no safe place left. Who didn't want to join the Heavenly Law Alliance to avoid this calamity? Joining the Heavenly Law Alliance doesn't restrict you to your personal status. If you feel that you can survive alone, you can leave at any time, Long Jueshin added. So you thought for a moment, then agreed. Okay, I can. Hearing this, Zidong Lai, Lin Yunhe, and the others smiled. Zi Yunxiang was even more overjoyed. Hee hee, I can always look for you to spar with in the future. There are many training grounds in the battleship. Gang Daley hammered Su Yu's chest. He was happy for him. The older generation, such as Elder Chun, were also happy to see this. Congratulations, Alliance Master. You will be sheltering another outstanding talent. Long Jueshin relaxed. If that's the case, Su Yu, follow the guards down. We'll carry out the routine inspection. What inspection? Swoosh. Two crystals, half-fairy realm experts walked in from outside the door. Behind them, there was a corpse dressed in black clothes. It was the corpse of the First World Senior. Lin Yunhe and Zi Donglai's expressions immediately changed. Gang Daley's smile stiffened. Alliance Master, it's just a routine inspection. Why would you use the First World Senior's corpse? Lin Yunhe could sense that something was amiss. Zi Donglai furrowed his brows. Alliance Master, the inspection is just to check if the person you are taking in has colluded with the otherworldly invaders. It's enough to verify his innocence. But why would you use two crystals half-fairy realm experts in the First World Senior? Alliance Master, what is the meaning of this? Long Jueshin waved his hand. Don't misunderstand. Su Yu's fighting prowess is astonishing. For safety's sake, it's better to have another layer of protection. Su Yu squinted his eyes. Is he doubting my motives for coming to the Heavenly Law Alliance? Alliance Master, please. Lin Yunhe wanted to say more. Slap. Long Jueshin flew into a rage and slammed his palm on the table. His expression was gloomy. Am I the Alliance Master? Or are you? It's not up to you to tell me what to do. Su Yu, since you have entered the Heavenly Law Alliance, you will be bound by the Heavenly Law Alliance's rules. Now that we are going to inspect your identity, you must cooperate. Long Jueshin's expression was stern. Someone, capture Su Yu first. The first half of his sentence was to appease Su Yu, but the second half was completely different. He wanted to capture Su Yu in front of everyone. What happened? It's just an identity inspection. Why do you want to capture him alive? Zi Donglai finally felt that something was amiss. Long Jueshin wasn't taking Su Yu in. He was obviously trying to capture Su Yu. At that moment, a cold snort came from outside the hall. Why do you want to capture him alive? Do you even need to ask? The answer is obvious. They are all two crystals half-fairies, yet he was able to easily kill two half-fairies and save two of the Heavenly Law Alliance's geniuses. Don't you think that his identity is very suspicious? A young man in luxurious clothes walked into the hall under the protection of Elder Zhang and another two crystals half-fairy realm guard. Fu Hongxue? Gang Daley glared at him angrily. Is it you, bastard? Fine, I will capture you first. Then, I will ask you about the stupid things you have done in the past. Swoosh. Gang Daley took a look at the gap in the defense, then slid his shoulder and dashed forward like a ghost. Elder Zhang and the other old man only had the time to let out a roar and hurriedly step forward to protect him. However, Gang Daley's lips curled up and an inhuman aura erupted from his body. His speed then increased by 3 times. As his figure flickered, Gang Daley closed in on Fu Hongxue. Humph! Seeing that he had successfully captured Fu Hongxue, Gang Daley suddenly heard a cold snort. Gang Daley's body shook, as if he had been struck by lightning. At the same time, his chest was hit by a palm. With a pathetic groan, Gang Daley was sent flying back like a cannonball. His feet left a deep mark on the ground before he managed to stop himself. When he looked over, he saw that the person who had attacked him was Long Jueshin. Do you still respect me as the Alliance Master? Long Jueshin said coldly as he stood in front of Fu Hongxue. Gang Daley suppressed his anger and said, but he almost tainted Lord EU. Shut up. Your words cannot be trusted for now. Long Jueshin shouted coldly. What are you waiting for? Capture Su Yu, Gang Daley, and Zi Yunxiang. I suspect that the 3 of them have already colluded with the otherworldly invaders. Su Yu had strangely killed 2 people at the same level as him, and Gang Daley and Zi Yunxiang, who had come with him, were suspected of being bribed. Hearing this, Gang Daley laughed angrily. You old fool. You can't tell right from wrong. He was furious, especially when he saw Fu Hongxue, who was laughing coldly behind Long Jueshin. Dalei, there is no need to say anything. He is just seeking revenge on me. Su Yu extended his hand to stop the furious gang Dalei. His son, Long Aojue, had gone missing, and Long Jueshin was still holding a grudge against the Black Snow Devil King. Seeking revenge? I am just thinking of the warship's safety, Long Jueshin said calmly. Do it. Wait, Alliance Master. Zi Donglai's expression changed. His daughter had become a suspect, and her fate was to be imprisoned. Without his protection, Fu Hongxue, who was daring and cunning, might take the opportunity to lay his hands on Xiang and taint her innocence. If my daughter is a suspect, then am I a suspect as well? Zi Donglai asked angrily. He had risked his life for the Heavenly Law Alliance and was once an elder. His loyalty was impeccable. However, he did not expect Long Jueshin to say coldly, "You are right. Everyone involved is a suspect. Do it now." Su Yu, Gang Dalei, Zi Yunxiang, Zi Donglai, and Lin Yunhe, capture them all alive. If anyone dares to resist, kill them all, Long Jueshin ordered coldly. Even Lin Yunhe had been implicated. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a large number of half-fairies swarmed into the hall. There were more than 10 of them. Chapter 619. Wait, Alliance Master. Old Chun and the other elders were shocked. How could you believe Fu Hongxue's words and arrest Zi Donglai, Master Lin, and the other elders? The two of them joined the Heavenly Law Alliance before the otherworldly realm invaded, and their performance in the Dragon Abyss of the 9 Underworlds is still fresh in their minds. How could they be spies from the otherworldly realm? Alliance Master, please reconsider. Such a hasty decision will surely disappoint the other elders. That's right, Alliance Master. Gang Dalei is Elder Jio's disciple, so I find it hard to believe that he is colluding with the otherworldly realm. Just as Gang Dalei had said, the Heavenly Law Alliance's elders were all righteous, so they all pleaded for Long Jueshin. However, Long Jueshin was determined to go his own way. He coldly said, I have already made up my mind. This is a moment of life and death for the Heavenly Law Alliance, so we cannot afford to make any mistakes. Anyone who is suspicious must be investigated thoroughly. If they are proven innocent, we will naturally release them. But this is too rash. Alliance Master, please. Old Chun was somewhat stubborn. Long Jueshin's expression turned cold. Old Chun, you have repeatedly tried to stop me. Are you related to them? If that is the case, I will have to arrest you as well. What? Even Old Chun is going to be arrested? Who would dare to say anything in such a situation? They could not understand why Long Jueshin was acting so rashly. Could it be that he had lost his son and daughter consecutively? Ever since he had learned that Long Wuxin had died in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, Long Jueshin had been in low spirits. Now that he was infuriated, it was very likely that he had lost his mind and become a lunatic. Just thinking about it made the other elders' hearts tremble. The Heavenly Law Alliance was in grave danger if a lunatic became the Alliance Master. Arrest him, Long Jueshin coldly snorted. Swoosh. The dozen 2 crystals half-fairies could be considered the Heavenly Law Alliance's mainstays. Apart from the elders, they were the strongest guards of the Heavenly Law Alliance. How dare you? Gang Dalei shouted. Old man, you are muddle-headed. Are you trying to destroy the Heavenly Law Alliance? Zi Donglai and Lin Yunhe could not help but feel disappointed. They looked at each other and realized that Long Jueshin was acting strangely. They had been inspired by the Heavenly Law Alliance to help the human race, and they had come because of its reputation. They had also gotten to know people like Old Chun, who had a fair heart. However, in the face of chaos, the Heavenly Law Alliance had gradually changed. First, there was Fu Tsangshan, who fought for fame and power in the dark. He used all sorts of methods to suppress Zi Donglai. The current alliance leader was obstinate and arbitrary, causing the elders in the alliance to be bitterly disappointed. The Heavenly Law Alliance was no longer the same as it had been in the past. If you dare to resist, you will be punished even more. Long Jueshin coldly snorted. When Gang Dalei saw the two crystals half-fairy realm experts swarming toward him, he became anxious. Among them, only he and Su Yu had reached the two crystals half-fairy realm. Even though Su Yu was still holding back, he was still outnumbered. Moreover, if it was just the two of them, it wouldn't have been a big deal. However, there were still Zi Yunxiang, Zi Donglai, and Lin Yunhe. They were in a two crystals half-fairy realm experts match, and they might not be able to protect the three of them in time in such a chaotic battle. Su Yu, what should we do? At such a critical moment, Gang Dalei asked Su Yu. He had an inexplicable trust in Su Yu. As he looked around, Su Yu's expression was calm and unruffled. Surrender, Su Yu said calmly. Surrender? Gang Dalei couldn't believe his own ears. The Black Snow Devil King he knew was arrogant and unruly, yet he had unexpectedly chosen to surrender. As he looked at Zi Yunxiang and the other two out of the corner of his eye, Gang Dalei chuckled bitterly. Su Yu was probably afraid that the three of them would be injured. Without any resistance, Su Yu and the other four were easily captured. Then, they were all shackled, which were made of special materials. Fairy binding shackles? Master Lin, I bet you didn't expect that you would one day be bound by a magical treasure that you made yourself. Fu Hongxue chuckled. Many of the Heavenly Law Alliance's magical artifacts had been created by Lin Yunhe, and the fairy binding shackles that were binding them were one of his masterpieces. They were made of special steel, and even a three crystals peak expert wouldn't be able to break free from them. As they were bound, they had no chance of escaping. Lin Yunhe didn't even look at Fu Hongxue. He just looked at Long Juexin and said, Alliance Master Long, I hope that you will wake up soon. The Heavenly Law Alliance is now filled with vile people, and I hope that I will be the last one to be wronged. Even in his current state, Lin Yunhe's heart still belonged to the Heavenly Law Alliance. You don't need to say anything more. Take them away. Long Juexin waved his sleeves, and the guards took them away. The hall became silent. Sigh. The Heavenly Law Alliance isn't what it used to be. Old Chen sighed helplessly. Everyone's emotions were also complicated. Long Juexin's personality had changed greatly, and the Heavenly Law Alliance was now in a precarious situation. Such a scene didn't just affect Su Yu and the other four, but also the hearts of the Heavenly Law Alliance's people. In the dungeon, the Heavenly Law Alliance's dungeon was made of steel, which was the same material as the shackles on their hands. Unless one had the fighting power of a fairy, it would be impossible to break the shackles and escape. Since ancient times, no matter how powerful the Heavenly Law Alliance's captives were, no one had ever been able to break the shackles and escape. Father, how will we be dealt with? Zi Yunxiang leaned against Zi Donglai. Her eyes were filled with worry and helplessness. Zi Donglai furrowed his brows. His eyes were filled with worry, but he still patted her shoulder and comforted her. Xiang don't worry. I believe that Su Yu wouldn't collude with the otherworldly invaders. Sooner or later, we will be proven innocent. Zi Yunxiang smiled bitterly and said, Father, are you still trying to comfort me? Given the current situation, it doesn't matter whether we are innocent or not. In order to appease Fu Tsangshan and the other factions, even if we are innocent, Long Juexin will use other methods to punish us. Even though she was inexperienced, it didn't mean that she couldn't see through the current situation. Fu Tsangshan's power had increased greatly, and his faction was gradually expanding. Long Juexin, who was once the #1 expert, was heavily injured and had yet to fully recover. Moreover, Fu Tsangshan didn't get along well with the people from the northern continent, so it wasn't a coincidence that Zi Donglai had been removed from his position as an elder. Now that Fu Tsangshan was secretly pressuring them, Long Juexin would probably sacrifice them in order to temporarily appease him. So, you already understand that I was useless and didn't protect you well. Zi Donglai's face was filled with bitterness. Zi Yunxiang shook her head. No, Father, you raised me up. It's all because of you that I am who I am today. How can you say that you didn't protect me well? It's all because of the evil people. Zi Donglai sighed softly, his eyes filled with worry. Gang Dalei was furious. A bunch of filthy rats. When my old man wakes up, I will definitely wipe out all of them. The last fortress of a human race has been tarnished by these B** stars. Lin Yun sighed. Daily Eye, don't be impatient. This matter hasn't developed to the last step. It's too late to make a decision next time. I believe that Alliance Master Long will handle this matter impartially. He then added, although he has his own selfish motives and was biased towards his son and daughter, his heart is still on the side of the Heavenly Law Alliance and the people of the Jinlong continent. Perhaps the pain of losing his son and daughter caused his emotions to become unstable, causing him to do such a reckless thing. Perhaps he will understand after he calms down. Zidonglai chuckled. Thank you for your kind words, Master Lin. Our fate will depend on how Alliance Master Long decides. If he can handle this matter impartially, I, Zidonglai, will definitely sacrifice my life for the Heavenly Law Alliance and the human race's younger generation. But if he really wants us to sacrifice ourselves to stabilize Fu Sangshan, I will accept it. I'm just worried about Xiang-Er's fate after I die. That bastard will definitely not let this matter rest, and he will definitely do some outrageous things to Xiang-Er. Zidonglai was most worried about his only daughter, Zi Yunxiang. Father, don't say that. Zi Yunxiang's eyes were slightly red, and she felt like she was about to cry. Both father and daughter had depended on each other for many years, and their love for each other was very deep. Zidonglai sighed softly, feeling guilty. He couldn't help but look at Su Yu, who was sitting cross-legged. Ever since he had come in, Su Yu had been quietly sitting in a corner, not uttering a single word. As Zidonglai looked at the tall, thin, yet dazzling figure, which was filled with potential, he couldn't get rid of the regret in his heart. Su Yu, aren't you worried? Zidonglai hesitantly asked after thinking for a while. Su Yu slowly opened his eyes and shook his head. What will come sooner or later. What is there to worry about? He was waiting for an opportunity. How could mere shackles and cages trap him? If he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. However, he wasn't the only one who wanted to escape. There were a few people who wanted to escape. He needed to think of a long-term plan to ensure that they could leave safely. That's true. With such an attitude, it's not surprising that he could achieve what he has today. Zidonglai wanted to say something, but hesitated. After a while, he said, Su Yu, Qin Xian'er is your fiancée. She hasn't returned yet, so I hope that you won't be too sad. Everyone in the continent knew that Qin Xian'er was Su Yu's fiancée. Su Yu had used his identity as Yin Yu's deputy palace master to barge into the Phoenix cabinet to look for Qin Xian'er. Who didn't know about such an impressive feat? The mysterious heavenly divine pavilion had opened, and Qin Xian'er hadn't returned. Her fate had been sealed. Su Yu was startled. Qin Xian'er was still cultivating in the 9 jade spiritual pearl, and she had reached the final stage. Hence, Su Yu didn't disturb her. Hearing this, he felt embarrassed. It's all right. Actually, Xian'er, you don't have to say it. I know that you are sad, but life moves on. Lingering on the past will only do you harm. Have you ever thought of marrying another virtuous wife? Zidonglai finally revealed his motive, sighing. I shouldn't have said such a thing, but I can only say it when you are in dire straits. Gang Daily Eye's brows twitched. He looked at Zi Yunxiang, then smiled knowingly. Hee. Lin Yunhe chuckled, a meaningful look on his face. Zi Yunxiang seemed to know what her father wanted to say. Her face turned red, and she grabbed her father's sleeves, pulling on them with all her might. Her eyes were misty, and it was unknown whether she was crying from anxiety or embarrassment. Zidonglai acted as if no one else was around, continuing, When you were at your peak, I knew that Xian'er was no longer worthy of you. Now that you are in jail, I can say this. So let me ask you again. Are you willing to marry my daughter? Zidonglai spoke his mind. I know that you and Daily Eye did not resist because you were afraid of the 3 of us. I also know that you could easily escape. Hearing this, the few of them were shocked. So you could easily escape from the jail? Chapter 620. However, my only worry is that after Xiang-Er leaves, she will have no one to rely on. The continent will be in chaos, and the invaders from the otherworldly realm will be savage and fierce. I'm worried that will be bullied and humiliated. So I hope that you can marry her and take good care of her as your husband. Suyu was silent for a while, raising his head to look at Zi Yunxiang. Sensing Suyu's gaze, Zi Yunxiang lowered her head. She was so nervous that her blood rushed to her head. Her whole body stiffened at once, and she could not even breathe smoothly. She even felt the world spinning around her, her vision turning black. Her delicate skin was as red as the setting sun, reflecting an intoxicating glow. Coupled with her natural temperament, it was even more irresistible. It was undeniable that Zi Yunxiang was a woman of the highest quality in both appearance and temperament. She was hard to find in this world. As a man, if he wasn't moved, he would be lying to himself. However, it was impossible for Suyu to accept it. After all, he couldn't let Xian'er down, as he still had Xia Jingyu's deep feelings for him. Seeing that Suyu was silent, Zi Donglai continued, Suyu, Qin Xian'er has already left. You should also find a place for yourself. Gritting his teeth, Zi Donglai looked at Zi Yunxiang apologetically. Even if we take 10,000 steps back, even if you still love another woman and cannot marry Xian'er, then I can even be a concubine. I only hope that you can fulfill your duty as a husband to take care of her and protect her. As a father, if there was the slightest possibility, how could he allow his daughter to become someone else's concubine? However, he had no other choice. He could only entrust Zi Yunxiang to Suyu. Who wouldn't want to take Zi Yunxiang as his wife and protect her for the rest of their lives? Being reduced to a concubine was truly a waste of God's gifts, causing one to sigh with regret. Suyu sighed inwardly. Qin Xian'er and Xia Jingyu were two women, and it was already difficult for Suyu to choose between them. Uncle, Suyu said, seeing that Suyu had something that he could not say. Zi Donglai seemed to understand Suyu's worries. He tilted his head and said, Xian'er, you should also say something. If you can only become Suyu's concubine in the future, are you willing? When Zi Yunxiang heard the word concubine, her nervousness instantly turned into misery. As a concubine, she would have to serve her husband with someone else. This was probably a future that Zi Yunxiang had never imagined. It had nothing to do with love or love. It was only about the most basic human dignity. Moreover, Suyu's heart belonged to someone else, Qin Xian'er, and the person he loved wasn't her. However, for some strange reason, although Zi Yunxiang was extremely unwilling in her heart, she was unable to open her mouth to refuse. There seemed to be some kind of invisible magic that made it hard for her to refuse. She raised her eyes slightly. Through her misty eyes, that silver-haired figure was as dazzling as the blazing sun, making it difficult for her to see the same dazzling brilliance. Apart from Suyu, it would be difficult to find another man in the world who was as dazzling as him and had left a deep impression on her. Yes, she called out softly and lowered her head once more. The humiliation she had imagined wasn't as intense as she had imagined. It was just grievance and a trace of unwillingness. Deep down in her heart, she was still willing. Even if she just looked at Suyu quietly, she would still be satisfied. Was he even willing to be a concubine? Gang Daily Eye revealed a look of understanding. It looked like Zi Yunxiang had feelings for Suyu. Otherwise, why would such an exceptional woman be willing to be his concubine? Suyu, do you still need to think about it? Zi Donglai heaved a sigh of relief. He was relieved that his daughter was willing to compromise. Suyu's heart trembled slightly as he looked at Zi Yunxiang. He couldn't imagine that a woman would agree to be his concubine. Suyu found it hard to reject such a gesture of friendship for a moment. After calming down for a moment, Qin Xian'er and Xia Jingyu's figures flashed in his mind again. Suyu sighed. He could only apologize to Zi Yunxiang. Humph, bitch. Right at that moment, a cold snort came from outside the cage. Under the protection of old Zhang and another old man, Fu Hongshue's face was gloomy and filled with anger. He stared at Zi Yunxiang angrily and said, "You'd rather be this lad's concubine than marry me." Fu Hongxue was extremely angry. He had specially come to Zi Donglai to propose marriage, but he had been rejected by both father and daughter. No matter how much he tried to please Zi Donglai was indifferent. Zi Yunxiang didn't even give him a good look. Instead, she hated him. What kind of status did he have? He was Fu Songshan's grandson, and his status in the Heavenly Law Alliance was extraordinary. Even the elders had to give him some face. However, Zi Yunxiang didn't want to be his wife. Instead, she wanted to be the concubine of a lad who couldn't even protect himself. Zi Yunxiang's face turned red. You were eavesdropping on us. Shameless. In terms of shamelessness, you are willing to be a lowly woman. How can I compare to you? Fu Hongxue rebuked her angrily. Zi Yunxiang was so angry that her whole body trembled. Yes, so what if I am willing to be a lowly woman? I will marry anyone but a shameless scoundrel like you. Fu Hongxue's eyes turned cold. Fine. I came here to ask you one last time about your feelings. Since you have said so, my patience has run out. Even if I can't win your heart, can I win your body? Old Zhang, drag her out. Old Zhang smiled. Yes, young master. How dare you? Zi Donglai was furious. He stood up abruptly and stood in front of Zi Yunxiang. Even Lin Yunhe, who had an extraordinary temperament, couldn't help but scold him angrily. Junior, that's enough. Gang Dalei was even more furious. You bastard, hiding behind your elders and scheming. If you have the guts, fight me fair and square. Faced with their anger, Fu Hongxue stared at Gang Dalei and laughed coldly. What a brainless fool. Apart from shouting, what else can you do? You're just a prisoner. What right do you have to fight me? Creak. Old Zhang opened the prison door and laughed coldly. Housemaster Zi, I'm sorry. Young master has given me an order. This is not what I wanted. As he spoke, he reached out to grab Zi Yunxiang. Zi Donglai tried his best to stop him. However, he was restrained and was no match for Fu Hongxue. He was easily pushed away by old Zhang. Suyu sighed in his heart. The time had not come yet. It seemed like he could only give up on his plan. Slowly standing up, Suyu exerted strength in his 5 fingers and was about to break the chains. Stop! However, at that moment, a deep voice came from outside the prison. Surrounded by 2 rows of guards, Long Jueshin descended into the prison. His cold eyes surveyed the surroundings as he coldly scolded. What are you doing? Old Zhang's eyelids twitched. He immediately stopped and rushed out of the cage. He bowed and said, Greetings, Alliance Head. We learned that they were secretly discussing an escape plan, so we came to question them. Alliance Head, please investigate. Alliance Master Long, I, Fu Hongxue, can testify that everything we have said is true, Fu Hongxue said. Long Jueshin's cold expression softened a little. All right, I understand. You can leave now. I will start interrogating them. It is not appropriate for unrelated people to be here. Fu Hongxue smiled. Yes, Alliance Master. As he spoke, he left the prison along with the 2 elders. When they reached the outside world, Fu Hongxue's expression became gloomy. This insensible trash. He really came at the wrong time. No matter how arrogant he was, he still had to restrain himself in front of Long Jueshin. With a cold look on his face, Fu Hongxue looked back at the prison before he turned around and left. In the prison, Long Jueshin stood outside the prison with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked at the 5 of them indifferently. Alliance Master, Fu Hongxue is a scoundrel. I hope that you can expel him as soon as possible. He will definitely cause trouble in the future. Lin Yunhe was still angry. Long Jueshin looked at Zi Yunxiang, who was crying emotionally. He said calmly, I don't need you to teach me how to do things. Take them away. Long Jueshin waved his hand. 2 rows of guards entered the prison and grabbed Su Yu and the others. Zi Donglai was surprised. What are you doing? Long Jueshin said calmly. You have colluded with outsiders from the other world. This is a serious matter. How can you be interrogated in such a place? In other words, he wanted to bring them to a safe place for interrogation. A bad feeling arose in everyone's heart. Under the escort of 2 rows of guards, they were brought to the bottom of the battleship. There were very few people along the way. Even if there were, they would be chased away by the guards who had gone to scout the way. Hence, they did not meet a single person along the way. Alliance Master, where are you taking us? The bottom of the battleship is an uninhabited area. It is not a suitable place for interrogation. Zi Donglai's eyes slowly narrowed. Long Jueshin coldly snorted. You will know when we get there. The bad feeling in everyone's heart became stronger and stronger. Finally, they reached the deepest part of the battleship. This place was overgrown with weeds. It was a large piece of barren land that no one lived in. They could faintly see a scorched ruin buried in this uninhabited world of weeds. This place had once been the site of a great battle where outsiders had invaded. The battleship's bottom had been blasted open by a strong martial artist. Although the hole had been mended, this place was no longer suitable for humans to live in. Long Jueshin brought them to the center of the ruins. It was a spacious arena, which used to be a martial arts arena. However, on the arena, which had been abandoned for many years, there were bloodstains that had dried up 1 or 2 years ago. Moreover, it was not just 1 or 2 bloodstains. This is the place where the Heavenly Law Alliance executes criminals? Zidonglai was shocked. There was a rumor in the Heavenly Law Alliance that there was a place where criminals who had committed heinous crimes were executed. However, it was rarely used. This was because the criminals who were executed were all personally supervised by the Alliance Master. Apart from Long Jueshin's personal guards and himself, no one else knew about this place. It was just a rumor that had been circulating around. No one expected it to be true. What made Zidonglai even angrier was that Long Jueshin actually wanted to execute them, not interrogate them. It seems like you all know about it. That's good, Long Jueshin said coldly. Bring them up. Lin Yuna's eyes were filled with pain. Alliance Master, do you really want to do this? He still had a glimmer of hope in Long Jueshin, but in the end, he still ended up in such a painful situation. Don't blame me. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for offending someone you shouldn't have. Long Jueshin's back was facing them. His tone became gentler, but it suddenly became more serious. Execute them. Leave no one alive. The 2 rows of guards separated into 5 designated executioners, 1 for each executioner. At the same time, they took out a broadsword and chopped at the heads of the 5 executioners. Chapter 6:21. However, just as Suyu was about to make his move, suddenly 5 muffled sounds could be heard. 5 bloody heads were thrown into the sky, flying over Suyu and the others' heads. The 5 faces were filled with confusion, shock, and surprise. Then, as their eyes dimmed, they all died. Thump, thump, thump. The 5 heads rolled on the ground, finally landing on the ground. Then, 5 headless corpses were thrown out of the arena. Their bodies were covered with different wounds. This, Gang Dalei, who was filled with anger, was stunned. Those 5 heads belonged to the 5 executioners who had been about to chop off their heads. How could they be the ones who were beheaded? All right, you can all rise. Long Jueshin's gentle voice came from behind them. He slowly turned around with an apologetic look on his face. I'm sorry, I have caused you to suffer. As he spoke, he bowed to the 5 of them. The unexpected turn of events stunned them. Alliance Master, what happened to them? Lin Yunhe looked at the 5 beheaded guards in surprise. The ones who had attacked them were the other 5 guards. They were all Long Jueshin's trusted guards, so why did they kill themselves? Master Lin, please forgive us for offending you previously. The 5 of them had already been bribed by Fu Tsangshan, and they had been monitoring my injuries day and night. I had no choice but to kill them as well. Long Jueshin sighed. It was my incompetence that allowed Fu Tsangshan to secretly gather the Heavenly Law Alliance's powers while I was heavily injured. Even half of my trusted guards were bribed. Hearing this, Su Yu and the others suddenly understood. Fu Tsangshan is currently working with some elders to attack Housemaster Z and Master Lin. If he succeeds, you will all die. Hence, I took advantage of the situation and used Su Yu's matter to capture all of you first in order to preserve your lives. As he spoke, Long Jueshin took out a red crystal. It was the Heavenly Law Core. After instilling a strand of spiritual energy into it, an extremely secretive formation suddenly appeared on the arena beneath their feet. It was a spatial teleportation formation. Back then, the gap in this place wasn't completely repaired. The First World Senior left a formation here. Only the successive Alliance Masters knew about it. Fu Tsangshan definitely didn't know about this. All of you go up. The teleportation spell can teleport you 100 miles away. As long as you hide your aura, no one will be able to detect you. Long Jueshin walked over and took out a key. He then unlocked their shackles one by one. It was only when he untied Suyu that he realized that the shackles on Suyu's hands had been undone. Moreover, the sturdy shackles were twisted like cotton. This scene caused Long Jueshin to be startled. He raised his head and looked at Suyu's eyes. "You, can you break the shackles yourself?" As Long Jueshin looked at the twisted chain, he sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of strange power was it that it could directly break the celestial binding chains? Even if it was a high-grade divine rank, it couldn't be broken by brute force. So, you were actually pretending to be captured? Long Jueshin came back to his senses and quickly realized that the so-called shackles and cage couldn't trap Suyu. If he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Suyu casually threw away the shackles in his hands and wore a faint smile. You should be thinking that it was fortunate that you had good intentions. Otherwise, the one who died just now would have been you. When Suyu's killing intent appeared, Long Jueshin revealed the truth in time. If Suyu had been any slower, Suyu would have mistakenly killed Long Jueshin. Although Suyu was just a 2 crystals half-fairy, Long Jueshin could hear the absolute confidence in his words. He couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that the youngster from back then would have already grown to such an extent. His words were filled with melancholy. I'm really curious. Don't you hate me? At first, Suyu really thought that Long Jueshin was still brooding over Long Aojue's disappearance. Long Jueshin's pale face revealed a mournful smile. I lost my son and daughter, so I have nothing else to ask for in this life. I only hope that the Heavenly Law Alliance can continue to exist. I also hope that you humans can avoid the continent's calamity in the future. Let's just let bygones be bygones. Long Jueshin, who was all alone, had suffered heavy injuries, lost his children, and lost the Heavenly Law Alliance. He had fallen into the lowest point of his life, and it was also because of this that he seemed to have seen through life. He could even let bygones be bygones. Suyu's heart trembled slightly. Was this still the powerful and arrogant Heavenly Law Alliance master? He had changed greatly, as if he had been reborn. All right, all of you can leave now. I will announce to the public that the 5 of you killed 5 guards and took the opportunity to escape. However, I have already successfully killed all of you. These 5 corpses are your corpses. Long Jueshin waved his sleeves, and a flame shot out, burning the 5 corpses to ashes. It was impossible to tell if the corpses were men or women, let alone their faces. This method can be used for a while, but can't be used forever. The 5 spies died at the same time, yet their corpses are nowhere to be found. Fu Songshan will surely become suspicious. Lin Yunhe analyzed the situation. Alliance Master, why don't you leave with us? There was no place for Zidong Lai and Fu Songshan in the Heavenly Law Alliance. Since they couldn't stay, Long Jueshin probably wouldn't be able to either. Even his trusted guards had been bribed. It was clear that the situation had reached a critical juncture. There is no need for that. I am a member of the Dragon Clan. I am a descendant of the Heavenly Law Alliance, the Alliance Master of the Heavenly Law Alliance. You can run, but I can only fight to the last moment. You can go ahead. You don't have to worry about me. Long Jueshin waved his hand and turned around. Once they left, Long Jueshin would be the only one left to struggle bitterly. I hope that you can safely avoid the calamity in the outside world. Long Jueshin activated the array with a snap of his fingers. Suyu was moved, and he bowed to Long Jueshin. Senior Long, we will meet again. Gang Daley's expression was awkward. He bowed deeply as well. Previously, I called you senile. Please forgive me. Zidong Lai and Lin Yunhe's faces were filled with sorrow. They bowed deeply to Long Jueshin and said, Alliance Master, take care. With a flash of light, the 5 of them were teleported away. Following the dissipation of the formation, the arena was empty and there was no one around. Let's go. Long Jueshin sighed. At this moment, the sound of something tearing through the air came from afar. Long Jueshin furrowed his brows. Did something happen? Swish, swish. A dense crowd of people flew over from afar. Among the crowd were many elders. It was unknown why they had gathered together and were rushing over. Alliance Master. The leader of the group was Old Chun and a few other senior elders. Swoosh! When the group landed, they hurriedly looked at the arena. When they saw the 5 charred corpses, their expressions changed. Alliance Master, I heard that you secretly executed Housemaster Z and Master Lin. Old Chun asked anxiously. Long Jueshin squinted his eyes. He had just arrived, and the elders had already rushed over. It was too much of a coincidence. His cold gaze swept over the crowd. Fu Songshan was standing alone among the crowd. He was the one behind all of this. However, Long Jueshin did not plan to hide what had happened. Since they were all here, he decided to cover it up according to his plan. It wasn't a secret execution, but rather they had already confessed to colluding with the otherworldly world. To prevent any accidents from happening, they were executed immediately. I was just about to gather everyone to discuss this matter. Since you're already here, you can verify their corpses on the spot. Long Jueshin's expression was calm, but he was secretly on guard. He hoped that no one would notice that he had lost 5 guards. He just needed to temporarily hide it from Fu Songshan and make him believe that Su Yu and the other 4 were already dead. As he thought of this, Long Jueshin glanced at Fu Songshan, hatred flickering in his eyes. If Fu Songshan had not secretly pressured him, he would not have taken such a risky move and killed Su Yu and the other 4. A few elders went forward to examine the corpses, but only charred corpses were left. Their genders couldn't be determined, so how could they identify them? They could only determine from the number of corpses that there were 5 of them. Where are their heads? Fu Songshan asked. The crowd in front of him parted to make a path for him. Seeing that Fu Songshan was suspicious, Long Jueshin was prepared for this. I chopped off their heads while they resisted. Then they were burned into skeletons. He pointed at the 5 charred skeletons below the arena. When the crowd looked over, their hearts sank. They had actually been killed. Old Chun was infuriated. Alliance Master, how could you be so careless? Long Jueshin had killed them without any witnesses. This is a decision I've made after careful consideration. Are you doubting me? Long Jueshin replied coldly. Deep down, he was filled with hatred. Fu Songshan had forced him into such a state. He would definitely take revenge in the future. However, Long Jueshin realized that Fu Songshan's face had an enigmatic look on it, and he could vaguely tell that he was excited. It was as if his plan had succeeded. Long Jueshin's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Fu Songshan already knew that there was a transportation portal here? Could it be that he had already arranged an ambush 100 miles away to secretly kill Su Yu and the others? As he thought of this, Long Jueshin suddenly felt uneasy. Elders, are you still willing to follow this alliance leader who has lost his mind? Suddenly, Fu Songshan spoke. He was actually targeting Fu Songshan. Ever since he became seriously ill, he has been lacking in energy, and it has been difficult for him to maintain the Heavenly Law Alliance. Following the death of his daughter, his temperament has changed greatly. Housemaster Z and Master Lin. During the battle at the Dragon Abyss of the 9 Underworlds, how many contributions did they make to the Heavenly Law Alliance? However, Alliance Master Long killed them just like that. He was careless and decisive, and he did not care about his own life. He acted arbitrarily and did not listen to the elders' opinions. Now, he even secretly executed them without distinguishing between right and wrong. Elders, may I ask you if Long Jueshin still has the right to be the Alliance Master? Fu Songshan raised his arm and shouted. This unexpected scene made Long Jueshin feel as if he was stepping on thin air. It turned out that Fu Songshan's real target was not Housemaster Z and Lin Yunhe, but him. They had purposely suppressed Z Donglai and secretly revealed that they wanted to get rid of the 2 of them. This was done on purpose for Long Jueshin to see. If Long Jueshin had ignored them, they would have successfully gotten rid of the 2 of them. However, if Long Jueshin had attacked them, he would have been pressured by Fu Songshan, so he would have used a similar method to secretly release the 2 of them. However, this was exactly what they wanted. They would then blame Long Jueshin and accuse him of acting arbitrarily, thus removing him from his position as the Alliance Master. Chapter 6:22. Long Jueshin's conscience was exactly what he wanted. The crowd became silent. Was Fu Songshan trying to convince everyone to dismiss Long Jueshin? The people led by Old Chun were stunned, and their expressions were complicated. To be fair, Long Jueshin was not suitable to be the Alliance leader. However, he had led them for so many years, and their relationship was not shallow. For a moment, most of the elders were hesitant. I agree to dismiss Long Jueshin. The position of Alliance leader should be given to someone more capable. Old Zhang was the one who spoke. For some reason, he was not beside Fu Hongxue. I agree. I also agree that Long Jueshin is not suitable to be the Alliance leader. The elders that Fu Songshan had gathered took advantage of the situation to start a coup that he had been planning for a long time. A 1,000-mile dike can be destroyed by an ant's nest. Once the hole is opened, it will inevitably become a flood that breaks the dike. I also agree. Some of the neutral elders gradually made up their minds. No matter who the Alliance leader was, Long Jueshin was not suitable. No one knew who would be the next to be secretly executed. One stone caused 1,000 ripples, one after another. In the blink of an eye, most of the people agreed to dismiss Long Jueshin. Finally, only Old Chun and the other elders were left. However, the situation was already over. Old Chun looked at Long Jueshin and sighed. Alliance leader, you should rest for a while. It will be good for you and everyone else. The deaths of Housemaster Z, Lin Yunhe, and the others have really disappointed them. Long Jueshin's heart was filled with anger. He forcefully suppressed the blood in his throat as he lamented in his heart. So this was Fu Songshan's plot, a coup to seize the throne. After dismissing him, who would be the most suitable person to be the next Alliance leader? He had thought that he had successfully deceived Fu Songshan and saved Housemaster Z and the others. However, he had actually fallen into his trap. Alliance leader, for everyone's safety, please accept our supervision for the time being. Old Zhang looked calm, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. Their plan had finally succeeded. After Long Jueshin was dismissed from the position of Alliance leader, all that was left was to wait for Fu Songshan to take over. They had followed Fu Songshan's elders, and their statuses had skyrocketed. In the future, they would be able to enjoy endless resources and glory. After all, Long Jueshin was a peak 3 Crystal Realm expert. Now that his mental state had gone awry, they couldn't just leave him alone. He needed to be monitored. Long Jueshin did not resist, as he was severely injured and his battle prowess was no longer what it used to be. Even if his combat power was still the same, if he dared to make a move now, it would only make the accusation that he had lost his mind even more. At that time, Fu Songshan would take the opportunity to severely injure him again. If Fu Songshan made up his mind, he might even kill him on the spot to prevent any future troubles. Since that's the case, Alliance Master, hand over the Heavenly Tao Heart. It's no longer suitable for you to keep it. Old Man Zhang stretched out his hand. I think it's better to hand this item over to the strongest expert here for now, just in case something happens. The strongest was naturally Fu Songshan. No one had any objections to this, as this item was related to the safety of the Heavenly Law Alliance's battleships. Hence, it was most appropriate to hand it over to the strongest person. Fu Songshan's face was filled with fear. Since everyone thinks so highly of me, I will use my life to defend the Heavenly Tao. If it exists, people will exist. If it dies, people will die. His resolute words won everyone's approval. Long Jueshin hesitated for a moment before handing over the Heavenly Law Core. This item had always been controlled by the Alliance leader. Now that Fu Songshan was in control of it, he was practically the Alliance leader. In an instant, Long Jueshin lost everything. The shocking change in the Heavenly Law Alliance was completed in such a calm and peaceful manner, even though it was a conspiracy. Most of the Heavenly Tao Union's members did not know that the Heavenly Tao Union had quietly changed hands. In Long Jueshin's room, his 5 trusted guards had already been transferred away. The guards at the door were Fu Songshan's trusted aides. Moreover, His room had been remodeled, and special materials from the celestial binding lock had been used to seal it. Thus, Long Jueshin would not be able to escape. Although it was called supervision, the Heavenly Law Alliance Master had already been reduced to a prisoner. How is it? Does the Alliance Master feel comfortable? Fu Sangshan stood at the entrance with his hands clasped behind his back. He was in high spirits and had a smile on his face. He did not hide his ridicule at all. You never expected that the Alliance Master of the Heavenly Law Alliance would end up like this, right? This place was filled with his people, so he wasn't worried that his actions would be exposed. On the other side of the door, Long Jueshin's back was facing him. The corners of his mouth were full of bitterness. He also had this day. Since things had already reached such a stage, it was useless for him to resist. The only thing that he could be happy about was that, although he was in trouble, Housemaster Z, Lin Yunhe, and Su Yu, the three outstanding juniors, had managed to escape. Thus, it could be said that he had done a good deed before his death. I must say that the Alliance Master's plan was quite thorough, and your acting was quite good. After all, you kill my people and let Housemaster Z and the other four escape. Fu Sangshan suddenly laughed strangely. Hearing this, Long Jueshin's body stiffened. He turned his head abruptly and asked, "What did you say? I don't understand." Haha, did you really think that you could let the 5 of them escape? Did you really think that I didn't know about that spell? It seems like you only managed to find 5 traitors among the 10 guards. There was still one more that you didn't manage to find. Fu Sangshan laughed coldly as he spoke. Even one of his trusted aides had been bribed. It was no wonder that Fu Sangshan and the others had rushed over right after he had arrived at the execution ground. In other words, Fu Sangshan had already known about all of his plans. He had even known about Su Yu and the others' whereabouts. What awaited Housemaster Z and the others was not freedom, but an ambush. It was obvious that Fu Sangshan would not let them live. Instead, he would let them die for real. Long Jueshin was at a loss for words. He looked up at the sky and sighed. "I've let you all down." In the end, all of his plans had been for naught. Not only had he lost his life, but he had also not been able to save anyone. 100 miles away from the battleship, space energy fluctuated on the top of the mountain, and 5 figures fell out of it. Looking at the vast scene before them, as well as the humongous battleship not far away, Housemaster Z and the others felt as if they had seen the light of day again. The only pity is that the Alliance Master is still inside. I hope that he can hold on. Housemaster Z sighed softly. Lin Yunhe could only sigh and change the topic. "Let's leave immediately. Let's not waste Alliance Master Long's good intentions." However, Su Yu stood at his original position and did not move. Instead, he turned his head and said to Gang Dalei, "Bring them away first. I will go back for a while." "What? Go back?" Gang Dalei thought that he had misheard. Zidonglai was shocked. "It was not easy for you to escape from the Heavenly Law Alliance. Why did you walk right into their trap?" Su Yu looked at the Heavenly Law Alliance's battleship with a cold glint in his eyes. "Now that I have nothing to worry about, I should take care of some people." Lin Yunhe had a strange look in his eyes as he asked solemnly, "Su Yu, can you tell me how powerful you are now?" Gang Dalei and the others also felt that something was amiss. It was as if Su Yu did not care about the Heavenly Law Alliance at all. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders. "I do not know either. I will only know if I try." Without a real battle with a fairy, it was hard to say how powerful he was. However, if I want to leave the Heavenly Law Alliance alone, no one should be able to stop me, not even the First World Senior. Su Yu was very confident about this. Even Sheng Ge, who was at the Divine Master level, had to put in a lot of effort to capture him. Zidonglai secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. What arrogance! What kind of place was the Heavenly Law Alliance? It was second only to the Empire of Darkness, and was far above the 8 great ancient clans. Only an expert like Senior Geo would dare to talk about freedom in such a faction. Lin Yunhe was also quite surprised. "After training in the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion, you have completely changed." Gang Dalei was dumbfounded. From his interactions with Su Yu, he knew that he did not like to brag or brag. Instead, he was very humble. Saying what he had just said was already a very conservative statement. Zi Yunxiang's beautiful eyes were filled with a strange light. Su Yu was even more powerful than she had imagined. Without a doubt, the reason why Su Yu was so restrained was because of their existence. All right, we will wait for you 10,000 miles in this direction. Zi Donglai looked at Su Yu deeply and sighed his heart. Back in the cage, he had not gotten Su Yu's promise to marry Zi Yunxiang. Swoosh! However, at that moment, a black cloud flew over from 50 miles away. It was not a cloud, but more than 10 Two Crystals half-fairy realm experts. They were the strongest team in the Heavenly Law Alliance. The leader was a youth in a luxurious robe. His face was filled with anxiety. When he noticed Su Yu and the others, his expression relaxed and he laughed loudly. So you are here. We have been looking for you for a long time. Even though they had set up an ambush in advance, the transportation portal had teleported them randomly, so they could not confirm their location. They could only search within 100 miles of the battleship. Now that they had found Su Yu and the others, they could finally relax. Swoosh! The Two Crystals half-fairy realm experts were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they had surrounded them. Fu Hongxue, it's you. How did you know our location? Zi Yunxiang was extremely shocked. The leader of the group was Fu Hongxue, who had set up an ambush in advance. You thought that Long Juexin's plan was flawless, but you did not know that you had fallen into our trap. Fu Hongxue laughed coldly. Lin Yuna's heart tightened. What do you mean? How is Alliance Master Long now? Fu Hongxue did not mind if they knew. He laughed. Do you still need to ask? He acted arbitrarily and secretly killed all of you who had contributed greatly to the Alliance. Of course, he was impeached by all the elders and removed from his position as the Alliance Master. Now it should be over. As for whether he is dead or alive, we do not know. What? Zi Donglai and Lin Yunhe were both shocked. Long Juexin had been removed from his position, and they did not know whether he was dead or alive. They could not accept such shocking news. Since you have told us all of this, it means that you do not intend to let us go back, right? Zi Yunxiang was extremely intelligent, so she realized that they were in a bad situation. Fu Hongxue's greedy eyes shone with a fiery light. Of course, all of you must die. Yunxiang, for my grandfather's great plan, I have no choice but to kill you. But don't worry, before you die, I will treat you well. Chapter 6:23. The Two Crystals half-fairy realm experts behind him moved upon hearing the news. Su Yu's eyes were calm, and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. At this critical moment, he said leisurely, Fine, I went back to look for you, but since you are here, I will settle this here. Su Yu couldn't convince himself to tolerate the fact that he had set his sights on Xia Jingyu and had almost succeeded. Su Yu only had one way to deal with such a person, and that was to kill him. Oh, I almost forgot about you. You are just an idiot. What's so good about you? Yunxiang is willing to be your concubine. Fu Hongxue looked at him coldly, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. I have changed my mind. You will be the last one to be killed. I will let you see how I am going to toy with this bitch to death. I will also let this bitch see how useless the man she likes is. Attack! Fu Hongxue shouted, waving his sleeves as he commanded dozens of people. The Two Crystals half-fairy realm experts moved upon hearing the news, turning into afterimages as they charged forward. Gang Daily's pupils shrank. Housemaster Z, Master Lin, and Miss Z, you should all escape separately. With a furious roar, Gang Daily's body emitted a barbaric aura as he thrust his fists forward like a flood dragon, sending a Two Crystals half-fairy realm expert flying away. Xianger, you go first. Don't worry about me. Zi Donglai shouted loudly. His heart had sunk to the bottom, as he had just escaped with great difficulty, only to be ambushed and forced into an even more dangerous situation. His daughter would have to face a fate worse than death. If you can escape from the hands of the Heavenly Law Union's many pillars, won't you be able to climb trees? With a cold smile, Fu Hongxue waved his hand. The three half-fairies understood his intention and flew toward the three of them. Two of them attacked Gang Daily and Housemaster Z with killing intent, intending to kill them with one strike. The last one was responsible for capturing Zi Yunxiang alive. Even if I die, don't even think about touching me. Zi Yunxiang knew that she would not be able to escape death, so she became more determined. She took out a green dagger and placed it against her throat. As long as the enemy approached her, she would immediately kill herself. You want to threaten me with this? Ridiculous. Fu Hongxue laughed sinisterly. I have been on guard against you. Xiang'er, be careful. Suddenly, Zidong Lai roared in anger. They could see a transparent figure floating behind Zi Yunxiang. It was a two crystals half-fairy realm expert. He had taken advantage of the fact that they were distracted by the three half-fairies, and he had used a magical treasure to conceal himself. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The other party's finger pressed against one of the meridians on Zi Yunxiang's back. Zi Yunxiang's entire body went limp, and the dagger in her hand fell to the ground. The transparent figure behind him swept through the air and grabbed the subdued Zi Yunxiang. With a light tap of his feet, he flew back to Hong Shue's side like a swallow. Young master, I've caught him. The guard revealed a fawning expression. However, what was imprinted in his eyes was not Fu Hongxue's joy. Fu Hongxue stared at him. First, he was at a loss. Then he was shocked. And then he was terrified. The guard was startled and turned his head to look. Only then did he realize that his head could not move. But in the eyes of outsiders, it wasn't that he couldn't turn his head, but that he didn't have a neck. So how could he turn his head? Everything below his neck was gone. He had been chopped off with a single slash. His body had already fallen to the ground, and only his head was still in the air. He didn't realize that he was still in the air, so he flew to Fu Hongxue's side to report on his mission. What kind of sharp divine artifact could separate a person's head from his body without suffering any pain? What kind of terrifying movement technique could be so precise, as fast as lightning, and so neatly behead a two crystals half-fairy realm expert who was flying at high speed? The whole place was deathly silent. Even the two crystals half-fairy realm experts, who were attacking Gang Dalei and Zidong Lai, stopped at the same time. Their scalps went numb as they looked at the scene in front of them. The head, which was floating in the air, lost its momentum and fell into Fu Hongxue's bosom. As it flipped over, he finally understood what had happened. He saw a silver-haired youth holding Zi Yunxiang, who had been snatched away from him, in one hand, and a small golden sword was circling in his other hand. This was the last scene he would ever see in his life. Are you all right? Suyu transferred a wisp of vital energy into Zi Yunxiang's body and opened up her blocked meridians. She regained her mobility. However, Zi Yunxiang was still in his embrace, staring at Suyu without blinking. Her beautiful eyes were as round as they could be. Just how powerful is Suyu? Similarly, Gang Dalei and the others were also shocked to the extreme. Not only did he kill a two crystals half-fairy realm expert in an instant, but none of them clearly saw how he had attacked and how he had snatched Zi Yunxiang back. Gulp! One of the two crystals half-fairy realm experts swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The way they looked at Suyu was like how ordinary people would look at a man-eating monster. When Fu Hongxue came back to his senses from his fright, he hurriedly threw away the guard's head, which was still in his bosom. He then turned around and tried to escape. Kill him. Let's attack him together. As for Fu Hongxue, he chose to escape. After the group of two crystals half-fairy realm experts struggled for a while, a slightly older man, who seemed to be the leader, shouted, "Attack him together!" His voice, as well as his life, stopped when he heard the word attack. This was because a small golden sword had suddenly pierced through his throat. As his blood splashed out, his eyes darkened, and his body fell like a stone. When he fell on the ground, a terrifying sound echoed out. Run! The two crystals half-fairy realm experts couldn't suppress the fright in their hearts any longer. They all screamed and ran away in panic like rats. They were completely different from their previous imposing and murderous appearance. Splutter! The one who had first shouted to run away didn't escape, because as soon as he finished speaking, a golden light flickered on his neck, and his head flew into the sky. This bloody scene completely frightened the group of two crystals half-fairy realm experts. Did I allow you to leave? An indifferent voice came out of Su Yu's mouth. His tone was calm, and it didn't seem dignified at all. However, in their ears, his words were even more dignified and frightening than the Alliance Master's. Without my order, if you move even a single step, you will die. Su Yu put Zi Yunxiang down, then calmly ordered them without even turning his head. The two crystals' half-fairy realm experts didn't move at all. 3 golden lights flashed in succession, and 3 people died in succession. The terrifying golden light and the strange killing technique terrified them. Cold sweat dripped down from their foreheads, but none of them dared to wipe it off. This was because they didn't know whether their heads would fall to the ground the moment they wiped off their sweat. All right, everything is fine now. So you put Zi Yunxiang down, then looked at Zi Donglai and the other 2 people with a worried expression. Are these the Heavenly Law Alliance's so-called strongest guards? Su Yu now understood why the Jinlong Continent's army had suffered such a disastrous defeat. It wasn't just because their fighting prowess was low, but more importantly, they didn't have any fighting spirit at all. He had only killed 3 people, yet with a single order, they didn't dare to move at all. In fact, if they had scattered and escaped, it would have been difficult for Su Yu to kill them all by himself. However, they didn't even have the guts to take such a risk. So you could almost imagine how one-sided the battle at the Dragon Abyss of the 9 Underworlds would be. When Lin Yunhe came back to his senses, he sucked in a breath of cold air. After a while, he sympathized with the guards and said, "You are making things too difficult for them. The Heavenly Law Alliance has never participated in the continent's battles, so they lack actual combat experience. Who wouldn't be afraid of killing 1 person with a single sword strike?" If Lin Yunhe and Zidong Lai were in Su Yu's shoes, they wouldn't think that they would be able to perform so well in front of a terrifying existence like Su Yu. Gang Dalei sucked in a breath of cold air. I felt like I was a monster, but after seeing you, I realized that I'm just a human. You are the real monster. Back then, when they were at the same starting line, Su Yu's power was still weaker than Gang Dalei's. However, after they went to the mysterious Heavenly Divine Pavilion together, Gang Dalei had to look up to Su Yu. When Su Yu heard Gang Dalei call him a monster, the corners of Su Yu's mouth twitched. All right, I'll go to the Heavenly Law Alliance. I originally wanted to go there for Fu Hongxue, but since Alliance Master Long is in trouble, I might as well help him. Su Yu had intentionally allowed Fu Hongxue to escape. Zi Yunxiang's admiration for Su Yu had reached an unprecedented level. She didn't even dare to look at Su Yu directly, as he was too dazzling. It was as if he was a god, while she was just a mortal on the ground. The great disparity between them made Zi Yunxiang feel great pressure, but also made her admire Su Yu even more. The youth, who had once been protected by her, had unexpectedly grown into a godlike existence. I will go with you. Since these guards have been subdued, you don't have to worry about us being threatened, right? Zi Yunxiang came back to her senses, her face slightly flushed. However, Su Yu shook his head resolutely. Not yet. I was never worried about these guards, but the First World Senior, who is yet to appear. If Fu Sangshan controls the First World Senior, I will be entangled, and you will become my weakness. Hearing this, Zi Donglai's expression relaxed slightly. You don't have to worry about this. The First World Senior's corpse will only appear when it senses the power of a fairy. No one can control it at any other time. Lin Yunhe nodded slightly. Indeed, you don't have to worry about this. This is what I am most worried about. Su Yu laughed bitterly. Although he was a 2 crystals half-fairy, he could still display the power of a grade 1 fairy. Alarming the First World Senior's corpse would be troublesome. After all, Su Yu had only seen him fight once, so he couldn't determine his power. The 4 of them understood what he meant, and they all froze on the spot. What you mean is that you have the battle power of the fairy realm. Zi Yunxiang stuttered, her words incoherent. The shock that Su Yu had given her was getting stronger and stronger. It was like an earthquake, and before the previous shock had even subsided, another greater shock had struck her. At this moment, even she couldn't help but call him a monster. If they knew that the number of fairies who had died at Su Yu's hands could be counted on one's fingers, It was unknown how they would feel. So I can go in alone. You don't have to follow me, Suyu said. He paused for a moment, then said, Please wait for a moment.